All right, everybody. Welcome to Vassals of Kingsgrave for a very special episode. A very different episode than what we normally cover right now. We've got vassals from all over the world to discuss the current topic that is on everyone's mind, the coronavirus or COVID-19 pandemic that has been sweeping the country, world, and just kind of changing life as we know it for all of us at the moment. Today is, let's see, let me just get this accurate. So, because any information we give you is
in Australia.
Yeah, it is the 26th here as well. It's currently 11 o'clock Eastern time in the U.S., so all of the stats and anything we mention will be current to that. But by the time you hear this, I'm sure it will have all gone away. Anyway, I am Adam. I'm also known as drownedsnow on the forums, and I am joined by Abby.
Bonjour, hi. That was such a American bonjour. Bonjour, hi, it's Abby. I'm here from Montreal.
Casey?
Hey, I'm kind of just lurking, but I'm currently in DC.
Dana?
Taindana on the forums, currently from the west coast of Australia. Well, always from the west coast of Australia, but that's where I am currently. That makes sense.
Kraken cast.
Gotcha. David,
Hi.
speaking of.
Speaking of Kraken cast, yeah, David HHH on the forums. I'm here in Boston, USA, in my home alone.
Social distancing like champions we all are.
Right.
Jock?
Hi, Jock from another Jock here on the forums from the Catholic Estate in Aberdeenshire.
Marie?
Hi everyone, it's Mary from France, Paris to be precise.
Michael, you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm quarantined in my apartment in the Czech Republic right now.
Ooh, exotic.
Ooh.
Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah, aka Lady Weaver, and I am social distancing from my home, also on the west coast of Australia.
Tanja?
Hello, I'm Tanja, Scilens on the forums. I'm currently in London.
All right, so we have a good mix of vassals from around the world at the moment, and I think we might be getting one or two more to come in and share their perspective. So today we don't have any books or movies or anything to talk about like we normally do. Although, hey, we can all share how we're handling this, how we're going through it. If we're catching up on those backlogs of books that we haven't been able to get to, hopefully some of us are. So yeah, it's been an interesting 3 or 4 weeks, really, as all of this is developed. I had hoped at this point that we would have a bit clearer picture of, what the way forward was, and maybe in some areas there are. In the U.S., we're still kind of doing things piecemeal, and we have our president talking about maybe everyone going back to church on Easter. So that's an interesting time to live in, I suppose. But I just wanted to start by just reading some of the current facts we have here. Obviously, and this is just all from the CDC website. The main precautions that people are taking is washing your hands, avoid touching surfaces, wash for at least 20 seconds, cover your coughs, wear a mask if you feel sick, stay home if you feel sick, stay home period if you aren't needed, please. Segregate yourself, put tissues in a different trash can. If you go outside, you're supposed to change your clothes when you come home. Disinfect surfaces regularly. I mean, there's a lot to this. You can go on the CDC and look up their guidelines, and they're adding to it and changing it as this evolves and what they know. So don't listen to what people post on social media telling you that this works, that works. Go find out for yourself, please. It's a frustrating time right now, and I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, which kind of sucks. And I think making this harder for people is we still see people that are trying to defy the recommendations to stay home or the recommendations not to congregate. So, kind of sucks. Anyway, so I think we sort of went over where everyone is located at the moment. So is everyone under quarantine or self-quarantine at the moment? I mean, is there anyone still going to work right now?
Yes.
Work is a bit funny in Australia at the moment. So a lot of people, like everyone in hospitality has lost their jobs. Everyone in essentially non-essential has been
and everyone
told to
who
work from
hasn't lost their
home.
jobs is essential. Oh my god.
Yeah, but
literally
it's
what
pretty
our
much
Prime Minister
daily. Yeah, it's daily. Like you get on Monday it was hospitality. On Tuesday, a lot of other places like food halls and food courts and markets.
Moved from
being. Yeah, so like it's almost like day by day. People
everything
are either
changes.
Yeah, which is making it frustrating for people. So like on Wednesdays, hairdressers were fine, but today all appointments can only be 30 minutes and beauticians are closed. But now that's changing.
With the 30 minutes, it's now changed. So hairdressers no longer have, it's 4 meters squared per person in there, apparently.
So they're still letting people show up for like hair appointments.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's the rationale behind the 30 minutes? Because
I think what happened essentially is when they a lot of hospitality people lost their jobs on Monday, and there was like lineups around like Centrelink for like hours and hours, and on Monday they were like, oh, it was a DOS attack. Like literally the system that you have could not handle the amount of people applying for like government relief.
Centrelink.
Yeah,
it
so
was like 96,000 people were applying or trying to access the site at the one time, so it thought it was under a cyber attack.
Yeah,
oh,
no.
Like
55,000 kind of thing. So it's what they're doing now is what I think they're doing is just they're cutting jobs like day by day. So like it's a bit more staggered. But a lot of people who can work from home I have family who work in childcare and family who work in like old age care and that kind of thing. And their jobs are essentially like, please keep coming in unless you feel sick. A lot of people have taken their kids out of school, like school holidays have been moved forward. But
have they not closed the schools?
No, our school holidays in Victoria were moved forward a week. So they started this week. The WA school holidays have also been moved forward a week. So they start on the 9th, I think the 9th, and then from the 3rd to the 6th. So next week schools are just going to pretty much be supervision. They aren't going to teach anything. The rest of this week, they'll be teaching.
Yeah, and a lot of it is a lot of private companies have now gone, even though we're not forced to make you work from home now, from a governmental point of view, we're going to make you work from home from now just to keep you safe.
Good.
So like there's that aspect to it as well. So a lot of companies have taken it on themselves. So you just don't have like this all of a sudden cutoff date. So that's fun.
Are all of like the decisions that are made about like we're shutting restaurants or we're shutting schools or whatever, are those being made by your states or by your federal government? Because in the U.S., like it's all state patchwork.
The federal government's deciding who's shutting, like businesses wise, what is and is not operating.
So essentially, they got all the fucking state like heads of like not head of state, but like our premiers together, and they were like, we're going to do it Australia-wide. Like that's what they're doing. So even though it is coming from our state government, it is from the federal government. So it's one of those weird things where they're making all the states agree. Because if we do it state by state, it did not work for that week where they were trying to do it. It just kind of showed like, no, if we have to do it all at once, or else it's just going to be a staggering effect of everything getting worse state by state. So the states that aren't as heavily affected, like WA, do it now before it gets worse. So even though it is technically our state government, it's actually coming from the federal government. It's there is this
so there is one sort of uniformed voice kind of controlling the response, which some countries are having and some aren't.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
They should be, but it's chaos.
Argue that but each state's also pulling things different ways. Like Victoria's shutting things down faster because they're being really hard hit, and a lot of the states are shutting their borders. So all of them apart from 3 states, that ACT, New South Wales and Victoria, have shut their borders, and it's for WA at least, it's a 2-week quarantine for every non-essential person coming into it, or like leaving pretty much, because we're surrounded by states that also have the ban on leaving. Schools, I'd also argue it's by state at the moment as well.
Yeah,
or at
schools
least
it's definitely by state. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: when did they kind of start shutting things down in Australia? When did like the I don't know, I guess people start taking it
Friday?
seriously, or your government? Oh, like last week.
Yeah. So Friday
Okay.
was we had new restrictions come in. Saturday, my restaurant was still
People
open.
flouted them.
Yeah, but a lot of people, like just in the public, but a lot of bars and restaurants flouted them. And so like the restaurant that I manage, we were super strict and we looked at the guidelines and made sure it was perfect. And then Sunday night at like 6:45 p.m. there was just like this thing, a statement that essentially said no, all restaurants are closed now. Like it was pretty much over the weekend.
From
Australians
midday,
proved
Monday, everything was takeaway or delivery only.
Yeah, they literally just Australians proved they couldn't be trusted.
We're all there.
Yeah.
Just to add to the question of the different states and so on, so Germany is leaving all the decisions up to the individual states. There's always a recommendation coming from the sort of the federal government, but then the states decide stuff individually, which is how we do most things like education and so on anyway.
You guys aren't supposed to be as stupid as we are.
Yeah, last time I paid
It seems to
attention
be-
to German states, it was like before the formation of Germany. Is there still that many states in Germany?
Oh yeah, we've got like 16
Oh, Jesus.
Bundesländer.
But Germany's tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
well,
have like
we
what
have
is it, like 6 states and 2
7?
territories?
I mean, that's like. Let me just Google if there's actually 16. This is embarrassing. Please edit this out if there isn't.
There are so many states in Germany.
16. Yes,
Germans
I knew this.
don't know.
Please
done,
edit,
Tanja.
please edit my uncertainty out. This is embarrassing.
There are more states in Germany than there are provinces in Canada, and Canada is the 2nd largest country in the world.
They won't allow me
How
to go
does
back
this
to Germany
make sense?
anyway. Yeah, like we have a lot of things that kind of get done at state level. So education, for example, is always obviously there's things that are the same in every state, but some decisions are like vary by state. So for example, when schools were closed and stuff like that, it was always statewide. The states have, I think, as far as I'm aware, have been doing things in really comparable timeframes, so they're not like hugely behind each other in taking measures. But it is decided on the state level, and they're kind of doing things one by one.
So they need to isolate states?
Not really, I think. I don't think you can really stop travel between the states so much because the borders aren't really...
They're not designed that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but
same thing in America. It's hard.
Right.
It would be hard to limit it entirely.
Probably
Yeah.
impossible.
I think in Canada there is of talk of potentially closing provincial borders as well, but I'm not 100% for sure on that. But I do know that
Is Quebec finally going to break away?
No, this is the first year that Bloc Québécois didn't run on separatism, so you know.
They finally gave up, and look what happened.
Right.
Yeah,
See,
that's their
That's
opportunity.
why. That's why.
They just knew they
Alright,
needed
now
tests
you
to
can
come
come
across the
here.
border.
Yeah. So, all right. Let me take a minute here. I want to go over just like the current numbers here in a second, but also, Michal, are you here with us?
I am here. Yes.
Hi.
Yeah. So there we
Hi.
go. So Queen's in the house. Welcome.
Many of us.
So let's see. Where did I have that? The current number of cases now worldwide is approaching 500,000 cases. Which is quite a lot. I think Australia, I was just looking at, you guys have almost 3,000 cases as of today. And then your top countries are China, Italy, and America. America's been on the rise. We'll be looking to
America's winning.
USA. Oh God.
Looking to push number one. Well, a country of this size and landmass with limited reaction early on. It's unsurprising.
Major
So
population centers.
Yeah. China has definitely dropped off in their new cases over the last, 3 or 4 weeks, I think. But they're still number one. They've got over 80,000 cases. Italy is about 75,000, and then we're approaching 70,000. So with that number continuing to go up, up, up. Then you have Spain, Germany, Iran, which I think Iran was early on was one of the it was Italy and Iran right outside of China, I think, that had the higher numbers early.
Sorry, just to clarify, are you talking about deaths or confirmed cases?
Cases, just cases. Yeah,
right.
No,
okay,
not
cool.
deaths.
Yeah,
like in the U.S., we've not had nearly as many deaths as in some places compared to our cases. We've also hardly had anyone recovered, like officially. A lot of this data is all very hard to get through. One of the things I found shocking was when I looked at the numbers on the CDC, which are not up to date with the number of cases necessarily, but I think they have about 55,000 cases on there in the U.S. And when they had, I think 600 were travel related and 1,000 were, what did they say? Close contact, loved ones or something, and 52,000 were under investigation. So it just shows to tell you that we're not able to really keep up with who's got what and where it's coming from and how they're getting it.
And we're not testing a lot of people.
Quite behind.
Yeah, way more people have it than have been tested.
Yeah. Well, the testing has ramped up a ton, but we're still way behind. Yeah, we're still way behind.
So you can see the jump day to day once they have widespread testing though. We had that in Australia when you just had this massive jump in numbers, and it was no, we finally got tests that we can actually confirm proper numbers now, which is always an interesting one. When you look at towns that haven't had tests and then all of a sudden have tests, looking at it at a much more micro scale than states and countries. It's that massive jump is we finally started being able to test.
I'm not sure we're ever going to get there here though.
No, that happened in Montreal. We had 3 confirmed cases, and then they did a bunch of tests the other day, and it jumped up to 1,000 or something.
So one thing
and to be clear, they changed the recommendations.
Right.
Oh, sorry. I was trying to say they changed the recommendations on testing because of the lack of testing.
Right.
I mean, people were wanting tests, and they thought everyone will be able to get a test, and they couldn't. And now they're basically saying well, don't test anyone unless you think it would change
unless you're in the hospital
the outcome,
in New York,
or
you are not getting a test.
Yeah. Basically, or if you're a celebrity, you can get a test pretty quickly. But
Apparently, yeah.
Wait, what was Casey saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, Casey.
Can you guys hear me? Sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
So basically, the data is a little weird to look at because I think what a lot of people aren't keeping in mind is the test, or most of the tests that we have right now. I don't think that I don't think there's any tests that are 24 hours yet, at least in the U.S. But I think that it takes 3 days to get test results back. So we're technically looking at least, I would say most of the data we're looking at 3 days behind us, not right now.
Yeah, right now we're over a week on what they're telling us for tests, that we're a week behind until we get results. At least in my area. Right. So it's not anything. I don't know if they're able to get test results quicker in other countries, but it's not.
It just depends on what tests you each country or organization made. The WHO made a bunch of tests. A lot of people, I think European countries got those. US did not take those. The CDC was we're going to make this super great test that's going to test all the coronaviruses ever. And then it fucked up. And their test now is very invasive, and it takes 3 days to get results.
Saying that wasn't the main problem, that America didn't have the reagents used to create the original tests that they were developing. So they're just swap tests for that reason rather than for the day of a test.
I do know that the FDA has approved 2-day tests under emergency thing for at home. We'll see how quickly people actually can get that though.
And there are issues with at-home testing. They can be the results are not always accurate, and
right.
It's like when they tried to do like at-home pap smears. Nice try. Like I know when I'm scraping my cervix. Doesn't mean I'm going to do it for a test.
There you go.
Well,
Me either.
it's
Me either, Donna. I'm never scraping my cervix.
just to make this immediately political, like, when Pence is like, oh, yeah, I found the test very invasive.
God.
Like,
It
the guy
is,
who
I
the guy who
think, like-
mandated, vaginal ultrasounds for women considering abortion. Like, oh my God, okay.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh
But-
God,
but
internal ultrasounds just to see if you have like cystic ovaries. That was a shock for me.
I did see, people talking about administering the test that certain places that, especially like a couple weeks ago, like they weren't necessarily doing it right. And it's like they got there was a hospital, I forget what state it was in, but they were saying that they got a bunch of negatives on their tests, like, but the person like that did the test didn't like swab it around. They basically just like went in and out, kind of didn't do it how they were supposed to. And then like a lot of those people that were negative, like they got a test again a week later and like half of them were positive.
How did we make this sexual? How?
Like that's the worst kind of sexual though.
The world or Vok? I mean, Vok can make anything sexual.
Vok.
You guys have been socially distant and
like experience, guys. You gotta do it how the real lords do it.
My question was going to be like, we kind of now know about Australia and Germany, but with the US, is it state by state? Does any state not have any closures?
So let me
Oh,
start
yeah.
off with this. So here in Tennessee, like a few weeks ago, we had like 2 cases, and they were like everything's cool, and it's just progressively ramped up. And I've seen I know responses in other states have been similar, and you guys can speak to what's going on in your home state. But it's been little by little. Like the first case we had was about 60 miles south of me, and it was some guy. His kids went to school, so they closed the school district. They said, "Well, we're going to clean on Friday and Monday, and the kids will go back to school." And then Tuesday came around, and they're like, "We're just going to be closed the whole week." And then it was like, "Oh, you know what? It's spring break." And then it just like now they're basically like, "Well, we're closed till the end of March." Then like, "Well, you know what? We're going to be closed into April." And this is what sort of happened. With a lot of the schools around here, my school district was like, "Well, we're not doing anything just yet," and then they were like, "Well, okay, we're going to be closed." They were waiting until cases arrived and all that. They're like, "We're closed until at least the end of March, but it could be longer." And then now they're basically closed through April, and it took until really last week for the governor to start kind of issuing orders, but he still hasn't issued like a statewide mandate to kind of shut things down. Counties and city mayors have been doing that little by little. I think it was like 10 days ago when they shut the bars down in Nashville because people were like downtown partying, and it got on the news, and people were like, "Whoa, wait a second."
That's what happened here in Boston too.
Yeah, and then the mayor was like, "I guess we should close all that down." But then like the guy that owns all of the main bars that like Kid Rock's and Jason Aldean's, all the ones that are like named after a celebrity, he's like got a lot of really shady business practices. I think like assault charges, and sounds like a awesome dude.
Nice.
But he's like, "I'm refusing to close."
Mm-hmm.
So, he's trying to defy the order and all that, but I think no one's really going out anymore. So, there's that. But we're still in a state where our governor hasn't he's issued some executive orders, but not like a full like statewide lockdown at the moment. And which is, a little odd. I mean, restaurants are still trying to stay open as long as they can, do what they can.
Oh my God.
Well, all the dining, he did make all of like the dining areas closed for restaurants, which a lot of restaurants just closed outright. But I mean, I've seen.
Yeah, that was the same here in the UK as well.
Yeah.
So restaurants have you're not allowed to dine in anymore. Restaurants can still do takeout.
The restaurants have kind of been, I think, the epitome of this because you see like how they're handling it. A lot of them want to stay open. Like I've been getting emails from people, and I've joked about this in the thread. It's like, 3 weeks ago, Chuck E. Cheese was like, "Hey guys, we're cleaning. Come on, it's still safe to come in." And I'm like, "Man, you're going to get the flu when you walk in there on a normal day. Kids putting boogers on everything, And then a few days later, it was like, "Okay, so if you have to cancel stuff, we're not going to charge you. And hey, you can take home your birthday party. We'll like give you a pack for the birthday party." And then it was
God, I'm getting emails.
Hey,
yeah, I'm getting
carry out
emails
deals on pizza. Now it's like, "Hey, we're trying to deliver."
Right. Oh my God, I'm getting emails.
They're desperate.
all day, every day. Like, hey, Popeyes, free delivery. Oh, come bring your pizza home. Come
right.
pick up
And the thing is that
day.
all of these messages start of like, we want everyone to know that we really care about your family.
Oh my God, yeah.
And like
oh my God.
how serious it is. And then at the end, it's like 2-for-1 wings. Like
Right.
it's some sort of sale to try to get your money. And you're like, oh, which is really sad. But then a couple weeks ago, I went
Domino's
into
here. Like they started doing contact-free delivery. I was donating blood because I have time to do that now. But it was like just an ad on the TV, and I'm like, is Domino like it was literally in the corner, like contact-free delivery. Are you kidding me? Like how can you promise me that? Like, am I getting it out of the Domino's hot thing myself? But that means someone's had to put it in.
So the situation that's happening here.
They just
I can
they
talk
leave
a
it
bit
at the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that.
So there's a restaurant I don't know how much I want to say for like data protection reasons, but there's a restaurant whose owner I know fairly well, and we've been sort of drafting the emails that they've been sending out about coronavirus as things have been developing. And they also did this whole thing where they started offering 4 beers for the price of 3 or whatever, because they had stock they still had to get rid of. Because obviously all these things came really short notice here. They came like on, I think Thursday night last week, or maybe Friday night last week, the Prime Minister announced around 5 p.m. that restaurants were going to have to be closed as soon as possible on that evening and not reopened the following day. So everything's really short notice, which is obviously difficult for managing your supplies and so on. And then for delivery, that restaurant, I know they've also started doing contactless delivery, where the idea is basically they come and drop it on your doorstep or wherever you ask them to, and then they sort of step away a meter or two or whatever to make sure you're actually the one who collects it and no one steals it or something, and then they leave.
And then you can wipe off the package.
Right. Yeah. Or they just leave it. A lot of them.
So they're not supposed to do that, but I mean.
Well, yeah, no. Some companies have that.
Some of them are
you
doing
can put
that
it in.
here.
Yeah.
Like with Uber Eats.
I feel
and
sorry
stuff
for
like
the places that are like 3-for-1 beers. No, we went into my restaurant, bless family-owned places, to clean it out and just drank everything that was open and things that were unopened, because the owners were there and were like, "Fuck this, we're not using it for a month." Have fun.
No, there's some posts,
and I mean, like, it's still like cheaper to just buy alcohol, so you know.
Well, what's funny is that liquor stores.
Oh, we have alcohol restrictions now. Sorry for talking over you, David. It just reminded me.
We have WA, I think. Is it national or just
No, it is just WA, because not only are we hoarding toilet paper, hand sanitizer, flour, pasta, and baked beans, we hoard our booze.
Oh, no.
My brother works in a bottle store, and he had a lady come in and buy all the vodka they had on the shelf. They also cleared out a bottle store, which is like in the same shopping area. Cleared that out of all their vodka as well, because she's selling it as sanitizer stuff. On her.
And who was it that was showing like the pot shops were open in Quebec or something?
Shame, Abby.
Oh, yeah, didn't know that bottle shop was a word.
I know, right?
There's also bottle-o.
We call them liquor stores or package stores in America.
Quebec. Yeah, in Quebec,
or just
the
the
liquor
wine
stores are
store.
Sorry, Abby. What are you saying?
Oh, in Quebec, everything is closed until May 1st, except for grocery stores, liquor stores, SQDCs, which are the pot shops, and like essential services.
Right.
So like malls, schools, and something else I forget are all closed until May 1st. And then sorry, just kind of backtracking on delivery. So my roommate ordered something, and one of the companies, the delivery carriers or whatever, they obviously we were all home, and they didn't even ring a doorbell. They just left a note being like, you have to go to the post office to pick it up.
Ew.
So my roommate called being like, what the heck? And they were like, oh, we're only doing like in-person pickup delivery now. And I'm like, that's the stupidest thing ever.
Yep.
Like, that's even worse.
That's really counterproductive, because it's making so many people leave their flats. Here, the mail, when they bring a parcel, they basically like ring your doorbell, leave it on the doormat, and then run away really quickly. That's what's been happening here.
That's what I've had too. Yeah.
That's what they do normally here. If you're lucky, if they ring the doorbell.
Normally they hand it to you. Usually they hand it to you.
Yeah.
So the thing with restaurants where I am is a lot of them have just closed outright, because, I mean, well, obviously, like, having a restaurant in New York City is not the easiest thing to begin with. But also where I am, Passover is in 2 weeks, and a lot of the stores were going to stay open until then, and now they just like closed because they can't, like, I guess the margins are not enough for delivery and like staying open until that point. Now
it's still risky to get delivery. So
right. And I think that's where we're heading.
Yeah.
And also the staff still has to come in if you want to prepare delivery.
Yeah, exactly.
So for that restaurant that I know,
produce
that's like the main reason they do.
Right. Well, I mean, I can speak on restaurants. I can speak on restaurants because I work in one in Boston. So I work in a high-end steakhouse, and what happened here was, things slowly faded. We went from being crazy busy. We have a thing here like Restaurant Week, because the first 2 weeks of March are usually slow, but we do that to bring in lots of business. And then the first sign of things like going bad was we have a seafood show that brings tons of people to Boston and to the restaurants, and they canceled that, and as a result the city extended Restaurant Week an extra week to make up for that, which didn't end up happening more than a day or two because of all this. But in any case, so then we things just slowly slowed down, but we stayed open. And then like St. Patrick's weekends, that will be 2 weekends ago our time. I don't know, how quickly you'll get this out, Adam, but 2 weekends ago our time, we were still open that weekend, although much slower. And then that Saturday night, as you were saying, Adam, I live in South Boston, so you know what happened. This is Southie, and it's St. Patrick's weekend, so of course all the bars had like lines out the freaking door, like down the street, and that got on the news, and everyone was pissed off. So that morning, the mayor actually called everyone, all those bars, and basically got them to agree to close for the day, or else, it might break. The shit would hit the fan, and it was too late because I was working that night, and that evening at work, the governor announced that as of like Tuesday, 2 days later, so it'll be a week and a half ago, all the restaurants in Boston were being shut down, and all the bars, and that and that we were doing the takeout thing that most of the world is doing. So that's what happened here. And for those of us in the restaurant industry, most of us are out of work now. I'm on unemployment. Luckily, Massachusetts has been super fast about it. I mean, I applied and had money in my account in like a week, which is amazing. There's normally a waiting period. The governor here waived the waiting period. We've been shut down for like a week and a half now, and then just this Monday they declared the stay in place order and shutting all non-essential businesses. Although I do think it's funny that liquor stores are considered an essential business.
Your state already is providing assistance to people financially.
Well, I mean,
they've ramped that up.
Basically, what they did was when he put the order to shut the restaurants down, what he did was the state normally has a 1 week waiting period for unemployment. We also theoretically, if you're unemployed, you have to do a job search. So they basically have waived both of those.
Right.
And your first, because I mean, obviously, I can't. What am I going to do? Go? Oh yeah, let me go. Let's see. Are you hiring? Duh, you're not open. Like you can't legally be open, so you can't really be job searching. What would be the freaking good of that, right? But they did. They got things fast. Normally, your first check comes in a check. They've basically waived everything. And I got a direct deposit, so everything happened super fast. I will give them lots and lots of credit. There's still a whole bunch of glitches. Some of my friends have not gotten anything yet. I was lucky because I'd filed for unemployment a few years back, so I was in their system. So they were able to find my money out super fast. And I mean, for those who don't know, worldwide, in America, most states, you for unemployment get half of what your income was. Although with the law that just passed, we should get a bonus $600, but we could talk about that after. But so that's where we were. So they were super good about getting everything done as quickly as they can, even though the state in-person unemployment office were closed for a couple of days. They asked everyone to do it online. They got things moving quickly. Now the problem, of course, is with everything being done kind of automatically. Some people are like having errors and getting screwed, and like some people I work with still haven't gotten anything, and I have, which sucks for them. And I mean, I hate it, and what can you do? But I mean, I think that's the thing, is they're trying to, there's still weird glitches. Like I got a weird notice that I had to show a doctor's note that I was sick. Like I was like, No, I'm not, but whatever. And then it disappeared from my file on the website. So they basically did everything they could, but there's still some default glitches that are coming. But I will give them credit. I mean, given that they had on the first day after the governor's order of restaurants, they had more applications than in the entire month of February. They've made it work, and for all the gloom and doom and the badness, I want to give credit where it's due.
That issue specifically, I think I'm not even sure I can speak for France because I am France is a privileged country on that front, and I'm privileged as well because I can work from home. So I didn't even had to go through anything, but I think we reacted quite quickly on that front, and that. Despite whatever I think of the government, at least people are quite safe in their earnings, except for a few sectors like cultural sectors, obviously, which are being hit very hard all over the world, I'm guessing, with everything cancelled. But it's really strange for me seeing all of you guys, and I'm really sorry for that, actually, all of you guys being actually laid off. I think that wouldn't happen exactly this way in France. You're still employed. You just it's just the state. The state is taking charge of the the state is paying the companies directly, I think, so that you're still employed, but your salary or part of your salary is being paid by the government. I guess. Really? I think so.
And I mean this is a compliment, but I don't think you are, and privilege doesn't come into it because you are at home by yourself and working. And this is the thing that stresses me out about friends that I have. I'm lucky I live with a family. I have that interaction. But for people that don't have it, working from home isn't a privilege. It is in so many ways a burden because so many people are now by themselves. And that's what stresses me out is that we, when everyone is healthy, say best case scenario, this time next year, we don't need to worry about COVID. But what we are going to have to worry about is all these people with pretty significant mental health problems because they had to work from home by themselves for 6 months.
They were in social isolation.
Yeah, and that worries me. People working from home and friends who are working from home, and I'm just just call me because being by yourself is not a privilege. Just still, if you can work from home, and I get it, it's great. I would, I have a list of things that I want to do every day, but working from home would stress me out. Not being able to have the same thing.
I mean, would those people still be at home alone either way? I mean, I'd rather be home working than home not working. I mean, at least getting money and whatever, but
yeah, it's just I feel very secure in my the money is still coming in, and and I'm usually working at home. That's actually what I do. So it doesn't change much from this perspective. I just don't go to all of my rehearsals and meetings with colleagues, but it doesn't change much in the way I work. But what I meant is really that it's very reassuring not to have to deal with that issue specifically.
Yeah.
And I don't think in France
on your plate, right?
Yeah, I don't think we had to, and because people are still in this situation where they cannot work anymore. But I don't think anyone had to go and ask for unemployment register for anything. It's just I think I might be wrong because I'm not in that case.
And I think that's one of the big differences
really
with America.
So, Abby, if you could tell me just before you go, so I think you're our only Canadian representative in here, or who's in Canada at the moment. So, what are they doing as far as income assistance for people, and kind of maybe some other stuff that you just wanted to share before you go?
Yeah, so I can't be I'm not the most informed on this because obviously I'm not a Canadian citizen, but so basically our premier basically shut down all schools and everything 2 weeks ago. And so my school has been on break, like we literally have not had classes for 2 weeks. We start them up next week because my school is not equipped to handle online courses. But so basically, I've been living with my roommates, and then my roommate's girlfriend has been living with us too. And one of my roommates is in the arts. She does theater. And so she has been trying to file for unemployment because while she wasn't working, she had jobs lined up. And now they're obviously all canceled because you can't go to the theater anymore and you can't do anything. So I think she's figuring something out with the, I think it's called EI, employment insurance or employment something.
Employment insurance.
To see if she can get money because we're all graduating and like we don't have jobs now or anything because like even if we hadn't started working. And then her girlfriend has been like fighting, or not fighting, but just like constantly on the phone with EI because she's a grad student, so she's a TA, and she also has a different job too, and like trying to figure out if she can get money as well. And they're not being very helpful because basically everyone is calling and being like, we need money. I think the Canadian government is talking about giving everyone like $1,000, like a one-time payment just to like help right now, but I'm not exactly 100% sure just because like it's not something that's like in my sector because I'm not Canadian, so I don't really like follow the exact intricacies. But yeah, I don't know.
Did you say that they were going back to school next week?
Yeah, so we're not like back to school, but like online courses. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So it's just taking them a little bit to set it up. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like my roommate's girlfriend goes to a different university, and so she's already been back in classes, but like my university has been shut down for 2 weeks basically. And like we just got our new syllabuses the other day, and like obviously we have no in-person finals, and like all of the summer courses are now online or something. I don't have graduation anymore, RIP me. But yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, that's unfortunately that's a real common thing right now. A lot of these major milestones for people, seniors and
like
are just
people
being wiped out.
PhD thesis and everything, and when you wait for your
PhD students still have to be everyone has been told like no work, you like do not work on anything, like teachers can't or profs can't assign anything, but PhD students are still having to like work on their theses and
but I meant those that are actually done and that were scheduled to
the commencement.
And just do your presentation, your thesis presentation, and those happen. It's reset.
One of my roommates was supposed to present at a conference in Ohio for linguistics, and that got canceled obviously, but they had it online over the weekend, but like that was really annoying because it was her first time doing anything like that, and it was very exciting.
My uni is offering to do if you have your Viva, so thesis defense scheduled in the next couple of months. I think you can choose between delaying it or having it online or whatever, and you don't have to submit a hard copy of your thesis anymore. Obviously, you can just submit an email.
That's good.
I am gonna have to abandon you guys and try and forage for food. We'll see whether there's any at the supermarket or not. Shelves have been quite empty, but we'll see. We'll see if we can acquire
some. Tanja.
So it was great talking to you.
Good luck, Tanja.
Be healthy.
Thanks, Tanja. Stay safe.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks, Tanja and Abby.
Bye.
Oh, yeah.
Stay safe.
I think Yep. I mean, I can still be here for like 5 more minutes, but I'm not leaving this very second.
Everyone's just like, we'll kick you out.
Stay for 5 minutes.
Upstaged.
That actually brings up an interesting question. One thing that brings up one interesting question we can maybe talk about later. I don't know if you want to just about like in terms of people able to get food and groceries and stuff like that.
So I had an adventure last week getting rice because everyone bought everything. They ordered everything. But you know what? It ended up being for the best in some ways. But like everywhere I go right now, they seem to kind of have a little bit of everything I need. Mm-hmm. The shelves are there's a lot of empty space, but like I can find pretty much everything now. Last week, not so much, but I ended up at one of the like better grocery stores around here. They're usually a little more expensive, but they tend to have fresher stuff. And I don't go there as often just because of the pricing and all that. But I went in and like they had, after going to like 10 different stores, they had the freaking rice. So I got myself a nice big bag of rice. And like they had people at the self-checkout with gloves, like spraying and wiping down after every person went through. I was like, oh, I'm just coming back here from now on because like the other grocery stores are not doing this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all the grocery stores are trying to implement like plexiglass and stuff. Obviously, it's like the one near me hasn't done that yet, but they're like, because it just takes time. But they're starting to get like plexiglass. And like when I was at the grocery store, there was a security guy who like handed me a paper towel and then like sprayed down the grocery cart, and then I had to like wipe it down and everything.
I feel like a big part of the problem is people just not getting it, and not like even if someone's trying to take precautions. Like I remember a few weeks ago, like Walmart's like, well, we're going to be wiping down all the carts. And you walked in, there's no one anywhere. There's no one with wipes. There's like, and people, they said they were going to do something. They didn't have the resources. People not caring that are supposed to be doing it. I mean, like I had a doctor's appointment today that I had to go to. Most of them have been canceled this week. I had like a bunch. This is supposed to be like my week to get stuff done, which is kind of worrying me. But so this one, thankfully, I was still able to go to. But like they had the normal precautions. There was hardly anyone there. I actually got to spend like a bunch of time with the doctor because like all the patients are more or less canceled, which was nice. But then like I heard the nurse talking about like her kids and going back to school, and like they've pushed school to like April 20th or something. She's like, well, they're gonna be back on the 20th, and like basically like this is all a big inconvenience. And this is one of the nurses. And like, well, kind of planning, like they can't keep them out that long, and this is ridiculous, and yada yada yada. Like, and I'm like, I don't think that date's gonna stick. I don't think our kids go back at all
this year if they're lucky.
Oh, see, I had the exact opposite. Like, I talked to
what were you saying?
a phlebotomist when I was donating blood, and I was like, yeah, hopefully maybe a month, and they might open restaurants again, and maybe with restrictions. And she's like, yeah, look at 3. And I was like,
exactly.
Oh, thank you for saying that. Like, that sucks for me, but thank you for being
honest.
So brutally honest with that, because I appreciate that. I need that. But you're saying you couldn't find rice. People have been hoarding shit in WA for like in Australia, like the toilet roll
for a
stuff.
month. Like,
For a month,
people hoarded things but didn't care about their own health and like staying away from people. But it was just like, I'll hoard everything.
I'll get toilet paper.
I know.
Right.
I'll go out and cough with you.
I baked my
The toilet paper
bread,
thing is so odd.
Right.
It's so odd. My mother showed me the most amazing meme and explains that every time one person sneezes, 100 people shit themselves. That's why people are toilet paper hoarding.
I saw that.
Oh, I feel like it was like someone somewhere was like, people gonna need toilet paper, and they went in and bought all the pallets at Costco and were like, yeah, I'm gonna sell this on eBay or something. And then someone was like, look, they're out of toilet paper, and then it went viral and everyone went and bought the toilet paper. I feel like it's like one person did it.
It literally just took like a couple people buying large amounts of toilet paper because they panic buy, and then it messes with everything else.
Yeah.
But I think this was kind of like indicative of the way this went, which was like little like the information is kind of as viral as the disease in a way, and like it spreads in similar ways because if you think about it, like the spread of concern, and anxiety and stuff, like the things that have been that would be weird, like a couple weeks ago, are now like totally normal. Like, what do you mean restaurants aren't open, or what do you mean you can't buy whatever? It's I don't know.
Even like those spring breakers that were like, if I get corona, I don't care, are like, I'm so sorry.
Well, that was part of it also, because like the narrative was that like, oh, it's only for old people, which we don't need to worry about that, like it, and the
and it'll be over in a week.
Yeah, and not everybody's still on the same page even now, but like I think that it's been interesting and kind of like like slowly live tweeting the apocalypse and just like things getting worse and worse. Like it's been a bizarre experience in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
real
like
quick
it's
before I
like
say bye,
Austin Powers, that slow moving train wreck sort of thing. Like
Mhm.
very odd.
Yeah, real quick before I say bye, just on what Michal was saying. Like, my friend was seeing this guy, and my friend has a autoimmune, like immunodeficiency or whatever. She has a compromised immune system, and this guy was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go out. Like, Corona won't affect me. It doesn't matter." And she was like, "Well, then you can't. Like, I can't date you because like you'll kill me." And he was like, "What? That's stupid." Like, there's just like people don't understand that like even if like you get it and you're not compromised, like the rate is so fast. Yeah, it's all right. But also I have to go to book club, so goodbye.
What are you
It's nice
reading,
talking
Abby?
to all of you. I am in a Orthodox Jewish book club right now. We're reading
Oh my
Circle Arrow
God.
Spyro, Exploring Gender in Judaism.
Cool.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
wow.
It's with my Rebbitzin.
Send me the link to that book.
It was really hard to get. I don't know if they sell it in Australia. I had to get it in America. I had to get my mom buy it.
Hey,
have my mom buy it for me.
So are you doing? Is it like a Skype book club sort of thing? Or
Yeah,
how you,
we do Zoom meetings. Yeah.
Well, I'll miss you and Michal.
Oh my God! Not all Jews do the same thing.
See,
all
Michal,
the time.
Michal, you know you're in that. Come on.
I'm feeling a little defensive now. I thought I was the only one with any Orthodox connections on here.
You seem very interested. So
I'm an agnostic Jew. So.
Well, I mean, I'm a college student, so all the Jewish things on campus are Orthodox. So that's
Yes. Yeah, we're pretty good at that.
Yeah, my Rebbitzin was like, "Does anyone want a Shabbos care package? Like, because you can't come over for Shabbos anymore." And I was like, "Oh, that's really cute."
Yeah, my neighborhood did. I mean, we're all stick in the muds and don't like each other so much at the best of times, but we sort of stood on our porches and sang, the Kabbalat Shabbat in the last week. This week probably won't do it because now it's boring, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right. I'm out. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Abby.
Bye.
Adam's saying you couldn't buy rice. I bake my own bread. I bake about 4 loaves a week. And I can always buy bread flour. And I got so annoyed when I went to go buy bread flour and it was completely sold out, and all the other bread things were sold out.
Yeah.
And I got really mad. And then I got really, really happy knowing that on Instagram I'm going to be looking at so many badly baked loaves of bread.
I saw
we
this
were
really
getting
funny
a bread maker a couple months ago. I
Huge.
was like, we should have gotten the bread maker.
So
Oh,
my
no,
brother has
I
been
went to
on a
shop-
sourdough kick for a while, way pre this. But I saw a really funny tweet that was please God, let sport come back so that my boyfriend stops talking about his sourdough starter.
Oh, I stopped making my boyfriend smell my sourdough starter because I realized he couldn't tell the difference between acidic, fragrant, tropical fruit smells and acidic, I need to feed it because it smells like nail polish remover. And I'm like, no, but there are so many range of smells in the acidicness. And he's like, there's just one and all of them make me want to hurl. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's...
Get him a pH meter.
Yeah.
No. On the bread front, I went to the shops and the only thing even remotely bread-like that was there were pack mixes of scone mix and pastry mix. And everywhere was sold out of bread. Everywhere was sold out of flour. All types of flour, gluten-free flour, all sugar, all rice, most pasta. It was shocking for about a week or so. Places are starting to get stuff now, though. And
people gonna carve
as well,
up.
I made a joke to Mum on the weekend. She went shopping. I'm lactose intolerant, so my family drinks lactose-free milk, right? And we normally get the long life one. And she went shopping, and she's just like, they sold out of all of the long life milk, and all of your milk is gone too. All of it. And I'm just like, what are we meant to do? Shit everywhere? There's no toilet paper. But yeah, so very upset.
I want to go back 2 weeks in time and just invest large amounts of money in UDL milk, long life milk. I just it's something
I don't
that
even know what that is.
I grew up with because my family, like the long life, like hyper pasteurized milk that doesn't need to be kept in the fridge until you open it.
I don't know if we even have. Do we have such a thing in America?
I don't know. They've been telling us to freeze milk, and I'm like, ain't nobody got freezer space?
That's ridiculous. There is starting delivery of milk
full of
again.
Speak for yourself.
I think in France we
man,
mostly have that
if
long
they
lived
start
milk you
delivering
talk
milk again,
about.
I'm gonna be. Oh, sorry.
I think it actually is more European and
Yeah, I think.
like
Yeah.
I was not exposed to it, but I encountered it for the first time when I was in Israel, and it was like that was kind of what, like, we all took a trip to Poland and we were all like stuffing.
Now does it come in a bag?
So we're stuffing boxes of milk like into our
I mean, you buy it basically like you buy bowls of water or juice or stuff like that.
I wonder. Now I'm gonna have to like look this up. I'm curious as to like how it works.
I mean, you cannot keep it
You
for
just
like
sent all of our
years.
listeners to Google, right?
It has
the ones in America.
weeks or months or something like that.
And it's not powdered milk, because powdered milk is the best thing ever I got from
the non-dairy stuff.
Like a Jewish bakery, like baking book, and it's like, use powdered milk. That's the secret to bagels, and I use it in all of my bread, and I can attest to that. But that must be because if it's like an Israeli thing, like they use powdered milk or UDL milk, and but we have powdered milk.
No, well,
we have
bagels
UDL
are not
milk,
Israeli.
and
They
then you
have
have
terrible
fresh
bagels
milk.
in Israel.
Oh God! Is it just like literally New York and London have good bagels?
Yeah. It's New York. Also, London. LOL. Sorry.
I lived right near Finsbury Park, and I'm sorry, their bagels were mouthwateringly good, but I will stand by that until I go to New York and literally cream my pants over how good the bagels are.
Well, let's see if you're ever allowed to fly again. But
yeah, seriously.
Yeah. I had a question of Tennessee, because I know they had that horrific hurricane. How are they holding up with like rebuilding from a hurricane and now this?
Well, hurricanes don't usually make it that far inland. It was a tornado,
right?
But yes.
Oh, sorry.
No. I'm sorry. I'm being a dick.
Okay,
Savage.
There's a difference. We just have cyclones and they fuck everything up.
No, the hurricane thing or the tornado thing was like a whole other thing to start the month. I mean, it's pretty bad. I mean, the whole part of the city got leveled. And then further out, it went for like 50 miles, and then most of the deaths were kind of outside of town. And so we went from like Nashville strong, everyone together, everyone coming out, helping, doing everything we can, and all this stuff. And even then, like you could see like the automakers being like, if you're affected by the tornado, we got special financing and employee pricing. And I'm like, you son of a bitch.
Really? Yeah.
Like, yeah. So, you know, but yeah, it went from that to like, so no one go out and help, and we're suspending relief efforts. And we're like, oh shit. It's a lot of those people hopefully have found a place. I know immediately a lot of the hotels were offering like cheap rates, like dirt cheap rates for people, and like they've gotten some assistance and temporary housing and all that. At least should have already been done for the people that were affected. But as far as rebuilding their lives and kind of getting everything going, I mean that's, I'm sure, more or less on pause, which really sucks. Mm-hmm. So.
Have others had problems getting food?
So they are like the shops are okay. There's still plenty of food, except for a few specific things like pasta and rice, where you can still find some, but it's less than usual. And of course, toilet paper, because this is global.
Reasonable.
Yeah, it's more the fact that you cannot for the life. I couldn't for the life of me get a delivery. Like everything is booked. There's no slots for anything, and you have to, like, there's a queue outside of the store to just so that not too many people are in at the same time, which is a good thing, but it's also like weird and worrying. And you go out, like, it took me 3 days to decide, okay, this is the day I go out for groceries. I haven't been out.
Like, are people standing close to each other in the lines, or are they getting space?
People were fairly okay. Yeah, we kept like the 1 or 2 meters between everyone, which was good. But it's just weird having to stress over that thing. Like, I know I'm gonna get food. I know I'm not gonna starve to death in my apartment.
But you're like, I really need tomatoes.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't it weird? Yeah.
Yeah, you don't really need tomatoes right now, but you will still. I was just still very stressed out by
I think
that.
grocery provides that normalcy. Like, so if we can go get, let me go get some asparagus or get, whatever. Like, it feels like, life is still kind of there.
It's true.
But I know, like, a lot of the stores here are doing like the senior hour, which I think is kind of a disaster. But like, to start the day off, it's like if people over 60 can come shop, and like supposedly they've done their extra cleaning overnight and all that. But it's like my mom sent me a picture. She was like going to go to Costco the other day for like the early hour, so like to get some of her stuff done. And it was a line wrapped around the block, and everyone was like touching shoulders. And she's like, not going there.
Defeating the purpose,
and like,
right?
I think she ended up going to like Sprouts. And she's like, it was, hardly anyone there, and they were wiping stuff down. And she's like, I'd rather just do that. So.
It's like the only letter I've got in my letterbox about COVID is I live right near a retirement home. And it's, 55s plus, and we got a little letter in a mailbox earlier this week saying, like, 2 people have tested positive. And I'm like, you fuckers were on a cruise. I know it.
a lot of these like, some of these older people are like, fuck it, we don't care. They're like throwing parties. It's so the thing that's gotten to me is
make sure I'm still in your will.
Yeah, this is like, it's not uniquely an American thing, but it's definitely partially an American thing. Is like, they tell you can't go outside, and they're like, well, fuck that. I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna cough in faces. I'm gonna lick stuff.
The problem is we have politicians like saying that kind of shit, and it's
right.
Well, I mean,
the lieutenant governor of Texas was like, the seniors are okay dying as long as the economy gets back up and running. We're willing to make that sacrifice.
Like, the governor of Mississippi actually, like, today, like, basically overrode city laws and town laws and reopened, like, restaurants. And get this, they reclassified gun stores as essential because, America.
Well, I mean,
because
like,
America,
look,
right?
Hey,
the beer stores stay open. Gun store can stay open too.
I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, everything, like opening restaurants.
Happens, when it comes to ammo, you'd rather be looking at it than looking for it, right?
Yeah, like, ammo has been hard to find.
But the point is, you have the governor making a political.
Like crazy.
The real thing, though, is you've got the governor making a point of overriding city and state laws and saying, fuck you, I know better, I'm not going to let you. Like, how, that's so messed up.
So, like, I mean, I don't want to be, like, too into politics, but, like, we kind of have to be with some of this stuff. Because, like, so, like, the relief bill here in the U.S., the Senate passed it last night. They've been arguing, but they should have done it last week. They've been arguing about this for forever. The Democrats stalled it. The Republicans stalled it. Everyone's acting like fucking fools, trying to, like, make sure they get their piece and position themselves for the election. It was so stupid because they said that it was, like, giving people an incentive not to work. And I'm like, no one's allowed to work.
Right. But that was only as of yesterday. Before that, there were other fights that were legitimate. So, but anyway.
But I mean, there's been, it's been really, like, a lot of BS going around. Not with just that, but with the state regulations and what's allowed to open and who's doing what, and it's just, kind of sad. I don't know.
Well, it's been, another thing that's been kind of surreal is that I'm like, oh, I like the governor now. Like, it's like,
I know, right?
Oh my God, I feel the same way with our president because I don't like him. Like, I hate what he does usually. But he's
handsome. I'll give him that.
No, that's not what I was about to say.
I know, but this is Bach. We gotta have a little fun, right?
Ooh, my wife just got her results back on her corona test. And it was negative, thankfully.
Repeat that. Repeat that because we're all talking over it. Say that again because you won't be able to hear.
Sorry, I was just stressed. She just showed me the email. She took a corona test, but it's taken like almost a week to get it back. So she was negative though, so that's good.
Yay! Relief!
As of a week ago.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
Party.
I was distracted there for a second, but yeah, I mean, I think like,
it's disappointing that she caught it between now and when she had the test.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Stressful.
Sorry.
But yeah, I mean,
Donna,
unfortunately,
Donna.
politics is coming into play a lot more than it should.
The problem with
And
healthcare workers, they don't get tested enough and the tests aren't quick enough. So like, they're
yeah,
like, yes, they can go back to work, but
Right.
no, like healthcare workers should be tested damn near daily.
Right.
well, I mean, really,
And kept
ideally,
safe.
everyone working in critical care. She works with cancer patients, so it's like she hasn't gone to work, since. But like, ideally, everyone working in critical care would be getting tested a couple times a week just to be safe right now.
Well, I mean, ideally, anyone
It's
working
just they're not
at
able
all.
to do that.
Anyone working at all should be. I mean, if you
I
work in a
know,
grocery
yeah.
store, I'd say if someone in a grocery store probably is second only
I don't
to
know.
people in critical care.
I don't trust those damn
Like-
grocery store workers. Some of them, man, that like,
I
because
know.
like again, people just aren't taking it seriously. Is the
Right.
issue?
It's true.
Some of them you
Yeah,
can really
like-
tell they are. They, others are just like they think it's a joke, and it's like a
Yeah,
lot of the
when-
older generation that thinks it's a joke too. It's like, it's
Well, it's
I don't
also
know.
just
My mom
very
had
frustrating to be
cancer.
like,
She
how
had,
do
like-
you social distance in a grocery store? Like,
Right. You
we all know what grocery stores
Oh,
look like. You know?
I give people the mean mugs. Like when I'm at the cash register, like I had to take my
Step
cart and
back,
like push
bitch.
it behind me so
Right.
that no one else could put anything on the conveyor belt there. And people were looking at me like I was an asshole.
Right.
And I'm just like basically like I don't
Fuck
give
you.
a shit.
Fuck you.
Like
Yeah.
they're all. I had a line of people behind me that were all standing right next to each other. I'm like, you guys all look like you got gray hair. Like, for all I know, I'm a
Yeah.
carrier. So this
But
is like
you
for
can't-
your benefit.
You
Right.
also
Here
can't be
they've
6 feet from the
marked out-
cashier. Like, that doesn't work.
Well, like
Yeah.
I'm like staying as far back as I can and handing the
Right.
cashier my thing and walking back. And I mean, the main thing, the whole reason for the social distancing is because if people cough or something, that's the whole idea is to try to
Right.
keep a distance away that it won't get on you. Now, the surfaces and everything else is a whole other matter. So as long as you're not coughing directly in anyone's face, it's a little better. But I mean, I have people telling me that they're social distancing, and they're like, "Well, social. I just have to. We all have to stick to our groups." And my group, it includes me and my family and my father-in-law, and my sister and my brother. And we're all gonna have to see each other. That's just our group, and it's hard because I don't know who they're seeing. And I'm like, no, the whole point is you're not supposed to see anyone like outside your house.
Right, exactly.
Like they're
Right.
not. Well, that's
Like, the
not
virus doesn't
realistic
care
because they're
if you're
dropping their
related if you
kids
don't live
off so they can go
together.
to work. Like, I'm like, look, if I don't have family nearby, so we're stuck. I'm starting tonight. I'm like starting to work overnight, basically, so both my wife and I can work, and someone can, watch my son. But like, if my grandpa was down the street or something, like, I wouldn't be dropping my kid off to be like, hey, watch him so I can go to work. We just deal with it the same way we're dealing with it now.
But some people don't
Because
have that
you're
option.
putting people at risk.
Some people don't
right.
have that
Yeah, but
option,
even,
though. That's
like-
the problem we got,
But the thing is
even
that
the
you do.
phlebotomist that I was talking to, yeah, like she was saying like her parents are over 80, and this woman was easily 55 and above, and she literally cut off her parents. She was like, "You call me whenever you need anything, and if you need to see me, that's fine, but you can look outside the front door, and I'm going to stand 2 meters away."
We'll
And you
Skype
can see
you.
that I'm
or-
okay.
She sees people
Yeah.
every day and is
Yeah,
in close
and
contact
that's the
with
thing.
people. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, and she's like, this is what I need to do to keep you safe. And if you need to see me to feel safe, I can do this, but I can't come in. I can't give you a hug. If you need me to drop off groceries, I can do that, but you better have a can of Glen 20. Like,
Yeah.
But here's
It's yeah.
the thing we got to remember, though, is that, and not to get political in sense of that sense, is that people in America in particular have spent the last 10 years, and this is true of people on both sides of the political spectrum, thinking that their circle knows better, that the government is bad and will be bad for us, and whether you trust President Trump or you hate him, whether you trust your government or you hate them, you've got a whole country full of people who've been taught to believe that anything they don't want to hear is fake news, And so, like, I was just reading a study yesterday that of Americans, okay, they did a study of, like, who do you trust to give you correct information? Well, among Democrats, 87% trust the CDC, and 14%, I think it was, I might be a couple off, trust President Trump. Whereas among Republicans, 90% of Republicans trust President Trump to give them correct information in this crisis. That's more than the 4% it was that trust the CDC. So, I mean, whatever you think of that, I mean, I don't want to get into like who's smart or right or wrong or whatever. We've been, spending the last 10 years saying science is good or science is bad, and people don't believe experts because we don't want to believe experts if they say things that we don't want to hear. So you've got people on both the radical right and the radical left saying, I know better, this is bullshit. So when the government says, yeah, shut down the restaurant, they're like, oh, I mean, I know people who are like, they're taking our freedoms away. And like, you know, I had to unfriend someone on Facebook because he was like every 3 hours posting articles saying how this is just a flu and it's nothing. And I was just like, you're being ridiculously
and well,
irresponsible.
I've seen conspiracy theories both blaming Trump and blaming the Democrats, and it having to do with the election. So
or
I mean,
the Chinese
that is kind of
or whoever.
That is kind of unfortunately where we're at as far as all that goes. But I do think it's useful that
what Michal is saying is like, you know, in Australia, like I am quite left leaning, and it is very hard for me to trust ScoMo, but I totally get people in New York because it's so much harder to like Cuomo. Like he is that your governor? Cuomo?
Yeah, Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't matter about individual politicians. It's just the point that we all don't want to trust someone we don't agree with. You know.
But the thing is, I think there's a certain degree of you can. In times of crisis, there are people who inspire confidence and feel like they're doing the right thing and talking, even if there's spin in there, more or less honestly.
Right.
And then there's people who aren't, and when the people who aren't are more in charge, then you get. There's going to be conspiracy theories and people who disagree and do stupid stuff, no matter what. Like that's what's going to happen. But I do think that the percentage of that is increased when you have, you know,
polarizing
top down. It's top down sort of thing.
Yeah, and the government was saying that this was not a big deal, like you know, 4 weeks ago.
Well, you know, it seemed like for a week, even like Trump came out and was taking it seriously and was saying mostly the right stuff.
Right.
I don't know. I thought like for a second I was like, okay, things might do well. And even when he's up there saying ridiculous shit. Like 5 seconds later, he's like, okay, Dr. Fauci's going to come up. And he's like, yeah, so what he said, that's not really great. Don't go by that. You know, so I'm like, okay, so at least like we're getting the more reasonable side of it. But then some people are just choosing not to pay attention. And like, you know, they just see like a 2-second, you know, soundbite of whatever, you know, Trump or someone said. And they go, well, that's the answer. We have a cure now.
That said,
we have a cure.
Can I take one moment just to recognize Dr. Fauci and the impossible job he has? Because realistically, if he were to stand up and say, you're wrong, you know, or say the things that maybe some of us want him to say, he'd be out of a job, and we need him in that job. So he's in this weird position of, if he steps, he has to tippy-toe over, like, no, I'm not going to lie to you all, but yeah, what he said isn't true, and it puts him in the most awkward position. I have a weird, like, personal thing in that because I was an AIDS activist, and, you know, I was arrested outside his freaking headquarters calling him a murderer during the AIDS crisis, and I will give the man all the credit in the world because when people were calling him a murderer, he sat down and listened to us and made a huge difference and saved millions of lives in the AIDS crisis. And now he's in charge, and it makes me personally feel safer knowing that he's one of the people in charge. The problem is, can he get the president to listen to him? That's another story. But the man at least deserves credit.
And his press conferences are like the best reality TV show in the last 10 years.
Right?
So,
oh, yeah.
You know.
I mean, blatant lie, and then, well, that's not what happened.
But at least reality TV is going out on a high note.
I know, right? And we all die.
The best ratings you've ever seen. Tremendous ratings. My thing is, I thought that for sure I scheduled this like a week or so out when I was, you know, talked about this last week. I thought like, well, for sure we'll have some sort of national response. We'll have some relief in place. I thought like we'd have all this stuff sort of like cemented by now, and it's kind of falling into place, but some of it still isn't there yet. Like the House still has to vote on this relief package, and we still don't really have like national guidelines
of any kind.
You know, I mean, things are being enforced sometimes at the city, you know, and county level.
But then there's also just like the get people the shit they need, and like this is not you know
not
like
happening.
Right, exactly, and it's like you know I can't listen to everything Cuomo says because I'll lose my mind, but like you know at a certain point it's like you get the ventilators, you get the beds, you get the masks. Like I don't believe that the government doesn't have the ability to at least facilitate that. And like dry. Like, I feel like, isn't that what executive orders are for? Like, isn't that why? And, you know, it's just kind of like, oh, well, you know, they have to fend for themselves and blah, blah, blah. And like,
and where do we need it? We don't know where we need it. We'll figure it out when we need it.
Well, one of the problems is
that's the part that is frustrating.
You have to actually believe in experts. You have to listen to them, and you have to believe in science. And the problem is right now, I mean, the fact is we have a president who doesn't. And I mean, without attacking him and whatever, and I'm gonna anyways, but I'm trying not to. The fact is we don't have the kinds of I mean, you're lucky, Adam, you work in the medical industry, and you're lucky if you can freaking get a test. That's obscene. I mean, I'm a waiter. I should be able to fucking get a test. You know, I mean, South Korea managed to get tests to all their people. We don't have the testing.
So
but we should.
It kind of sucks.
South Korea has drive-through testing, and whenever they actually find that someone has tested positive, they message all of their citizens that they have a new confirmed case and where they work, where they live, so people in that area know.
They trace it, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I mean, Israel has become like draconian. Like, they're texting you like if somebody is
hey, have you seen this guy? He's infected.
Right, and I mean,
he's walking over there. Stop him.
There's a fine line, of course.
That's really
anything is that when the apocalypse happens, Israel is got its shit done.
You know, I mean,
yeah. Look, Israel has always been a country that tries to be on the forefront as far as technology and action, especially considering you know what they've gone through, and they have such a small landmass to protect, and their population is precious to them. So usually they don't mess around with shit.
Yeah, I mean, I know so many Americans who have been like, all right, well, I have to come home now because I'm not Israeli, and they're making me come home now.
They're like, I thought I was gonna stay here. Like people that like have been living and working there.
I know someone who just got citizenship who came back.
Oh no!
Who just got citizenship in Israel?
In Israel, yeah.
What? Were they forced to leave?
To be fair, she's 18, so like it's not the worst thing that she's coming home and like, you know, whatever. But like, it was really funny.
The point of being a citizen.
Interesting.
Oh, I know, but it was like, I mean, I don't know if she was forced to or her family was just like, hey,
just like come on home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not that it's any better. Like at least, you know, like it becomes the type of thing where it's like, what's better? Like you're you know, they're very, very strictly enforcing. Like nobody's allowed to go. I think if you have a dog, you're allowed to walk outside for 10 minutes or something. Like it's extremely strict. And like, but is that better? You know, like
I don't know. I mean, it's weird.
Speaking of that, so like in Italy is like you're not allowed to go out at all, and there are some exceptions for like walking the dog and stuff. But then there's been like these viral videos of like mayors in Italy going around yelling at people. What are you doing playing on the beach?
Oh, there's a whole collection of them. Yeah, I've heard about
that. they're just like angry Italian mayors going around yelling at people. It's quite funny.
Speaking of that, one of my favorite viral videos is the people on their porches like doing music together. Like I love that. Like someone with the drums and like a DJ and all that. I love that.
But I have to just like say
in a very small area. They had that many piano accordions and the amount of tambourines coming out. I respect that.
Right, that
like
was
just
awesome.
I'm sorry. Like some just old woman hanging out a window with a tambourine. Why do you have a tambourine in your house? I don't care, but why? Like at the same thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad that country has so many tambourines and piano accordions.
So Michal, what were you saying?
Oh no, my favorite thing is like the videos of the Italian governors who are like, we have maybe 5 people who run in this city. Why is everybody suddenly an athlete?
God! I know if WA got as strict as like other places, like only one person with a dog. My dog is getting super fucking fit. Like the amount of people I know would be like, so.
Where the rest of us are getting fucking fat.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of hot takes about, you know, the Constitution and about our rights. And look, I'm tend to be a constitutionalist. I'm half a libertarian. Like normally, like, you know, a lot of this stuff yeah. Normally, a lot of this stuff they're doing is terrible, but like, you know, things are different. Like if you're in a time of war, a time of crisis, things are just different. And I think for a lot of people, this doesn't feel different. Like I think Sarah mentioned the thread like after 9/11, or which is like in my lifetime is the sort of thing I remember, and I'm sure there are other events that in the past that people would remember.
Right.
Where
Dr. Blood Sarah, by the way,
right,
not
yes,
me, Sarah.
yeah,
Dr. Blood Sarah.
But everyone was in shock, and they were it took a while to kind of get over it, but like they were coming together and people were helping each other. It was like there was like this sense of community that was created by that. And I imagine when you're at war, World War II or something, I'm sure that we had similar feelings of like, we've all got to band together and get through this. But like, we've been told like, the world might be ending, basically stay inside, which the world isn't ending. This isn't the zombie plague or anything like that.
But this has never happened
but that's
in our
how
lives.
It feels.
This is crazy.
And you can't go out and commiserate with your friends.
1 sec. I just have to say something. If millennials and Gen X and Gen Z don't get a fucking greatest generation tag on this after all the shit we've been through, I'm rioting. I'm sorry.
But I don't know about those. I don't know about that Gen Z.
Right.
Gen Z was real screwed, man. Millennials, we were screwed, and like we were just starting to recover. I was like, man, everything's looking great. 6 months from now, life's gonna be amazing. Right. And that was like 3 weeks ago, and now I'm like, oh god.
On that note, though, I do
so
love
many plans.
Ice and Fire
all the
Con,
people.
y'all.
Ice and Fire.
I'm a Doctor Who fan, and they did last week a live watch together of like the 50th anniversary special, and everyone watched it together and like Skyped messages to each other. And the producer of the show came up with a new scene at the last minute that someone filmed in their house, and we're seeing stuff like that all over.
Netflix has created an extension with Chrome, so you can have a Netflix party and watch and chat.
That's awesome.
And stuff that you're like, I wanted them to do this 15 years ago.
Right. In fact, they're doing that with Doctor Who today.
They've been very
Netflix.
quick at adapting.
Right.
Like it's the stuff that you guys have been saying in VOC and that kind of thing. When my restaurant closed, I knew what to immediately say to my staff members. Like in the sense that like, I am going to be checking up on you. We will continue. Like we will have a group chat. Right. I'm going to call you because you guys had already said stuff like that made me aware of what I should say to my staff members.
Right.
Like what I had to be aware of. And I appreciate that so much that I was kind of like primed for like, okay, it's a month by ourselves and there's people that I need to be aware of because they're not going to handle this very well. And if it wasn't for you guys talking about like COVID and like the system, like the Skype chats that we already have, like I wouldn't have been able to say to my staff members, it's going to be okay. I'm going to check up on you and this is how we're going to do it. Like we are going to chat once a week.
Right.
I am going to call every single one of my staff members once a week if they don't pick up on the group chat because of VOC.
Right.
Like, and I really appreciate that. Yeah, like I know how important it is, but like it's kind of primed me to be a good human.
Well, I mean, on some level, isn't VOC already this whole social distancing thing we've had? I mean, we are friends from all over the world, and, maybe we only podcast with, each two of us, like, every once a year or 6 months or whatever. But, I mean, like, all of you are my friends from all over the world, and half of, 2/3 of you I've never met, but we're friends, and that's kind of what's going on now in the whole fucking world, and we kind of already were doing that, and that's kind of cool, I think.
I mean,
I think it's
worth talking about. I think how social media and internet connectivity have both been like a mitigating force and kind of making this worse in some ways. Like I know most of my panic attacks have come from people on Twitter being like, "Are you making end of life decisions with your family?" And like that kind of shit. But that's we are also, I mean, only one of like a million necessary huge props and shout outs to teachers because like they have all been forced to be like, okay, well now you're teaching online. And like, that's a very difficult thing, but it is also possible.
Yeah. And I will say on that note, I mean, like, there's been a number of things like, some of the telecom companies, working extra hard to try and make sure that everything stays running. The FCC, even though I don't, always agree with everything that he's done, Ajit Pai has done some things to try and make sure people don't get cut off from the internet, if they don't pay their bills and things, which is great. Yeah, it's it's interesting to see the innovation that's happening right now for the businesses that are still operating and that are still trying to get your money or trying to stay afloat, streaming services and whatnot, and also some of the mitigation measures they're taking to kind of make sure that everything stays stable for everyone as we're all working at home and streaming 4K versions of our favorite shows. Yeah. But I think, Sarah, you wanted to mention something about the medication shortages we've been having?
Yes. No, I'm not sure if it's the same everywhere else in the world, but at least in Australia, there have been medication shortages and people have been buying out Ventolin, so asthma inhalers and puffers. People have been buying them out, which is very scary for people who are asthmatic and do need it in general, because we're going into winter and our cold and flu season. So normally they'd be needing it to get it now. But also with COVID, it's just been completely bought out. But it's not just that. It's also children's Panadol and Nurofen, normal Panadol, not Nurofen, thankfully. The hydroxychloroquine, I'm actually on it. I have been for a year now. As a regular thing,
that's the malaria drug, right?
That is the malaria drug that is also used to treat lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, and I'm on it for other stuff, but for that anti-inflammatory pain relief, I'm on it for that.
Yeah, so there was a like a study of sorts in I think it was in France or
France. I think it's us.
And
yeah.
Well, and but to be fair, to be fair to the clinicians doing this, this is a new virus to us that we don't have immunity for, we don't have treatments for, vaccines. So right now they're being like, well, let's try steroids, even though steroids aren't supposed to be recommended for coronavirus. They're like, let's just try stuff and see if something helps, see if something works.
Which is not a bad way of tackling this. It's just that the study itself is like, I mean, I'm not myself a specialist in this, but I have a friend who's working in biology, and I have like people more informed than me who have an opinion in this, and they're all telling me, like, including people here, that this is not a good study. It has a lot of flaws in the methodology, and like it's published in a paper owned by one of the co-authors of the paper. So like there's nothing really, everything is shady about this.
It's not really been vetted in the way that you normally would. And let me just say a few things about the way the study was done, the way this has all come out. I'm sure most people listening heard this. It was maybe a week or two ago where this came out, and they said, "Oh, well, within 6 days, it 100% cured everyone." And then Trump said, "Well, I don't know anything, but I feel like this is great. I feel like this has a good chance of working."
Right.
I'm not saying anything official.
That's what he says about everything.
Everything.
Right.
I know better than the scientists.
So all of my headlines were like, "Well, they have a cure. They need to stop delaying the cure. Why won't they get the cure to everyone out? Why aren't they approving it? The bureaucracy is ruining things." Right. And pretty much all of that is false, unfortunately. Not to say that it's not promising and it doesn't look like it could be doing something, but the people that didn't finish the study, the people that died, the people that went to the ICU were all removed from the results. So they only showed the people that were quote unquote cured after 6 days, and they still don't know if that cured the disease deeper down or if it was just curing in the nasal passage where they were doing the swabs. They just don't really know. And so a bunch of studies have now kicked off, like larger studies with this drug to see if it's actually working. But the effect of that has been that doctors have been prescribing it to themselves and their families so they can stock up in case they need it. And suddenly it's not on shelves anymore.
Well, you heard that case.
Yeah, it's not on shelves. I'm on a waiting list for it now. And my pharmacist was just like, "We don't know when it's coming in. Do you want to go on a waiting list?" And I'm just like,
whereas you never had
yes,
a problem
please.
before, right?
Never, ever getting it. Ever. And now I have to go on a waiting list for it, and they said that they'll call me when it's in, and that's very worrying. And I've also heard that there aren't many companies that manufacture it, and it goes from being a drug that isn't used that often, like not in the larger scheme of things, to something that every country will be wanting. and that.
I think
the
like,
reaction
And
to
especially
this,
when like it hasn't even been scientifically proven to be 100% effective.
Right.
It hasn't gone through
not at
appropriate drug trials. It's
several people
because
couldn't even
people are
handle
putting
the
out
drug;
that
they
it
had to get
might
off of it.
work.
Well, Tony
Yeah,
Fauci called it
and,
anecdotal
like,
evidence.
it's
That's how bad
not
it was.
a great drug. Like the side effects can be really, really nasty if you're on it long term. It can give you retinal problems in your eyes. It gives you nausea, like hives. Like it's not a great drug. It's not great for everyone. So people don't randomly go taking it unless it is prescribed to you.
Right.
And don't be like the people who are taking ones that are used to kill parasites in fish bowls. Don't take that and then wonder why you die.
people
and
have died.
Well,
one person
you heard
died.
about that couple.
Actually, lots of people are dying because they're overdosing, and one person's in critical condition. And I'm just like, let them die. Don't waste resources. They're that stupid. They did it to themselves.
And
no one deserves to die. No one deserves to die for being stupid. But there was a you heard about the couple, right? There was a couple in America who took this, and the husband died, and the woman's in the ICU, and they were basically saying that, well, they were listening to the president. And it's like, I mean, whether you want to blame him or not, whatever, but I mean, people do that stuff. When the president says something, people listen. That's a responsibility.
But it's other things.
He should have
like,
just said
I
that we're
friends-
looking into drugs and 1 or 2 look promising at this stage.
Right.
He should have just said that
But
rather
I
than.
feel like
ever done
people,
the responsible thing? Come on, I mean.
I feel like the people that are reacting to this, and like the people I see in my feed and that I talk to, that are like, well, there's a cure. What's everyone so worried about? Are the same people that when the stock market crashed, they go, well, it was overvalued, which I've known and people have been saying for a while. It was inflated. It was just due for a correction. So can we stop talking about it? It's over, right? And then like a day later, it dropped, and like a week later, it's lost like a third of its value. And I'm like, what were you saying? Can we stop talking about it? Like these are people that I think don't want to invest any of their energy to be educated, to research, to understand. They just want something told to them in a headline or a tidbit, and they can just move on with their life and everything works. And under normal circumstances, they're probably very happy with that, and they can get by just fine.
Yeah. So I think one of what's dangerous is that like no one really dares to like people are saying that this isn't reliable, like the study isn't reliable, and we have doubts about it and stuff like that. But no one is clearly publicly questioning the scientists who made it, and like with everyone is like working around the words. And that's scary because they can't really do any. I mean, at least in, like, I guess in France, if you were to go about and say that this guy is a fraud, you would just, I mean,
they'd sue you.
Yeah. So,
to be fair, these are colleagues that like are probably, for all we know, they're doing their best, and they were trying to present something quickly that had some potential. Like maybe we don't know if there was any sort of like malicious intent. I mean, I think they were just trying to show what they had.
But
to be fair,
that guy has been like he has a dangerous behavior. I think like he is telling everyone and everywhere that it's working. It is the drug, and
so he's like really championing it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's dangerous.
So in a couple of years, he will be like France's Andrew Wakefield. Like,
we don't even know what that
Andrew Wakefield was the guy that was like the MMRI, like the vaccine.
Oh, right. I'm like, I knew I knew
that
name.
That was, yeah. You've heard the name. He was the guy that the Lancet originally published it, and it was like, no, this guy's super fucking wrong.
And won't let it go.
But when it comes to medication,
medical license and all that.
Yeah, like I have a friend who's a type 1 diabetic. Most of his insulin comes from Italy. Like, that is worrying.
Right.
In, like, Italy is still exporting things-ish. But with like their closed down, it makes it incredible, like so much harder. And like the meds that I'm on, one of the first things I did was like peel off all the extra shit that's on medication bottles to just see where my meds were made. And thankfully they were made in Australia. Like, but I've never
think,
done that.
unfortunately,
I have
the
never
biggest
ever done that.
the biggest issue with a lot of the shutdown worldwide is the eventual supply shortages.
Right.
There are certain things that are going to and we don't know exactly, like,
right.
you know, what's not coming, what we're going to run out of. I mean, at the hospital, obviously, a lot of stuff we get is from China and Mexico and places. And, you know, for months it's been like, well, are we going to, you know, what's our supply chain look like? And people are like, I don't know. I mean, you know, it's going to keep coming eventually.
Diabetics to stop taking insulin. Like, it's type 1 diabetes. It's not like type 2. Do some exercise, fatty. That's type 2 diabetes most of the time. Like, type 1 diabetes is like, no, you need this to live. I'm really sorry we don't get it anymore. Like, you
is
can't
that the one that you
ration
have
it.
as a kid? Is that what?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Like, he's had, like, he got diagnosed at 18 months old. He is now in his early 30s. Like, it, you know,
because I work with someone. She's got the pump and everything, and
my dessert.
But yeah, I mean,
Sugar's a low.
insulin's one of those things that's always been kind of an issue of cost and supply. And then, like, I know, like, Puerto Rico, when they had the hurricane, like, I know there was a national shortage on saline because it's like 80% of the world's, like, IV bags are made in Puerto Rico. And you're like, wait, what?
No, what?
You know, so, well, Puerto Rico is huge for certain medical supplies. They have a huge production of, you know, there's certain things they make a lot of. And so, like I said, when the hurricane had, like, everyone was affected by that, like, worldwide. You know, I mean, everyone managed, you know, at a certain, it wasn't like, you know, people were dying because of it, at least not here. I don't know about, you know, the rest of the world, but, you know, if things are shut down again, like, I don't know. Yeah. So that's the worry is, I mean, cause, you know, eventually, well, you're not going to be able to go get underwear at the store because they stopped making it. Like, you know, it's weird stuff like that. You think about, like, well, that will eventually catch up, but it's like, so what about things that we need, like, that will run out? Certain things obviously are still in production, and food and things are going to be fine because they're going to keep them working. But then there are other things that either, you know, we're not getting shipped to from countries that are shut down, or, you know, they're just not making it right now.
I have a sewing machine. If you need underwear, hit me up. I don't.
You'll have the VOK logo on
it. Yeah. There'll be a little box stitch in it, but hit me up if you need things made. I will help. Like, shit, I hadn't even thought of underwear.
Yeah. So I mean, but again,
Adam,
like,
you're scaring me.
Probably all good. Well, I'm not trying to. Obviously, we're all probably going to be good for a while. But, like, the effects of this, like, let's say in a month.
You. All my underwear is baggy in the behind.
Oh no! What a tragedy!
Donna, start
there's still plenty of it now.
Baggy behind underwear. That's the greatest
tragedy.
But,
let's say we open things up in a month or a month and a half, you know, and then, you know, then we'll start seeing the lag effect of, you know, what things we're short on, and it's mostly going to be, like, non-essential stuff that, you know, you might start running out of. You know, I don't know. It just depends on how long this goes on. I mean, they've said that, you know, it's probably going to take a while before a vaccine and everything's developed. So, like, we could be dealing with this in some form for quite a while. Probably not these, like, big mass shutdowns where no one can go to work, though. So, you know, hopefully by the summer, you know, things are up and running. We don't really know yet. Which, I mean, I guess this sort of is getting into, like, one of the last parts I wanted to talk about was, like, going forward. Like, what do you guys think? Like, what are you guys worried about? What are you hopeful about? Have you noticed, like, any surprise benefits from all of this? You know, I mean, I did read an article that, like, the skies are clear in China for the first time in, like, forever. So, you know, that's something.
That's good, because I can tell you I've been there, and oh my God, it was awful. My lungs were just, you could taste it in the air in some cities.
But along with that comes, like, the hot take from environmentalists that, like, well, the planet's responding to the virus of man.
I know, right,
you know?
Right. Well,
and you're like, oh, well, yeah. You know, okay. But I don't know. What are you guys feeling like? What's, like, the most concerning for you right now?
Well, upside, I don't have to worry about getting parking at uni because that was a shit show for the first 3 weeks of semester. Like, there was no parking anywhere because now we're going to be doing it all from home. So, woo! And I'll get a refund on my parking. So I'm buying mobile for the apocalypse.
Invest that cash. You know, I realized in Tennessee you have to pay for the lottery with cash, and I'm like, I guess no one's playing the lottery. Like, I know
right?
you can win.
I know. Cash.
If I win, I
Get
won't
in
have
there,
to share
get
it.
in there now.
Yeah. What about the rest of you guys?
I mean, I'm a waiter. I don't know that my restaurant's ever going to open again. I mean, they say they will, but if things stay this bad, especially
are they
I'm
chain,
in a high-end
or are they
restaurant.
just like a local?
I don't want to say who because I don't want to just get involved.
No,
in
you don't have
publicly.
to say the name.
But
I just mean,
yes,
like,
they're
is it like a one-off? Or
no, they're a national chain owned by one person who owns like 300 or 400 restaurants. Not all of which are in this chain, but yeah, they've done nothing for us, which kind of sucks. Basically, I'm still trying to find out if I'm going to continue having insurance. Originally, they were going to shut us off, but then there was a lot of bad publicity, so they aren't, and I don't know what's going on. But luckily I can collect unemployment. But I mean, basically the only money I'm getting right now is from the state. I mean, if it weren't, luckily this bill, assuming it passes today, will give me an extra $600 a month, because remember, those of us on unemployment get half of our pay. I could barely pay my rent, never mind my credit cards and my other bills, So
you don't get like the $1,200 payment or whatever.
Well, we'll get that, but I mean that's not even a month's rent in Massachusetts.
And you guys haven't had
That's literally not my month's rent.
No. We haven't had like mortgage freeze or rental freeze or any of that. A couple of states have done that, but we haven't.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. I gotta pay my full bills, and I'm getting half my pay. And as a waiter,
landlords are going to be like, "Hey, where's that rent check in a few days?" I know it.
Oh no. Like that's one of the things that like the first thing that came in the first like stimulus package in Australia was like, if you were struggling to pay your bills, they are now on freeze.
Yeah, nope, not happening.
Yeah, a lot of places.
I
think Bina said the UK did the same thing.
I'm not the keenest on keeping to live in America anymore.
I know, right? Oh no! I mean,
yeah,
America doesn't like to put regulation on businesses.
A little better.
They don't want to put regulation on businesses and tell businesses they can't make money, and that's a problem. That normally that's okay, but now,
but they are right now. I mean, there's some things are lagging behind. But I think hopefully the biggest thing to come out of this for me, and like I said, I'm not into like socialism and all that. I know a lot of you guys, are kind of on that bandwagon. But hopefully people will see that having healthcare tied to your employer is just a terrible system. I mean, it has been for a while. It doesn't allow economic mobility. It doesn't allow people to change jobs or have security. It doesn't allow your employer to give you raises like they should. And then in a time like this where, millions of people are getting laid off, I mean, it's like, do they even have coverage or not? You know what I mean? Like that shouldn't be a concern right now. So hopefully that's something that we can get handled.
How do you explain the stress to children? Because I remember 9/11. Like I do remember 9/11, and I remember like there was a big thing on like how do you explain this to your children, like the impact that it will they've seen something traumatic on TV. How do you explain it? How do you explain this to kids?
It seems like there are two schools of thought right now, and one is like I see people posting like, well, in 20 years, they won't remember the coronavirus. They'll remember that time that you spent a month at home having fun. And I'm like, no, they're going to remember.
No, that's fucking bullshit.
Like that, so like some of the ideas, like just don't tell them anything and ignore that. And the other is like, there's a lot of like counseling and resources I've seen online to kind of help to coach your children and explain what's going on in a way they can understand.
Yeah, there's going to be a generation of kids who've never been outside until they're like 1. And then they're going to go outside and be like,
but no.
Well, you can go outside a little
they're
bit,
not going to remember that.
Well, I mean, never mind that.
We're talking about all the quarantine babies.
Have like
who knows when we'll be back to normal. I mean, I work in the restaurant business. Will we even have restaurants after this? I mean, if this doesn't go away, who's going to want to sit in a restaurant? I have to clear people's food and touch their plate that they just coughed on and whatever. Am I going to have to spend the rest of my life wrapped in plastic? I mean,
I feel like if you're looking at the worst case scenario, David, which let's a society is not ending. At some point there will be a vaccine or some sort of treatment where it's like a Tamiflu type thing, right. Something where this is not as big of a deal as it currently is.
Right.
But whether that's a year from now or 18 months, I don't really know. I don't know if anyone really has a good timeline on that because I've seen experts kind of all over the place.
And how many businesses can stay out for that long? That's going to be the thing. I mean, restaurants work on really, really tight margins, and 1 week out of work
going to be open when
down.
Everyone goes back to work in 6 months? Will people even go?
Well, that's my
like
point.
let's say if they open for the summer, I don't know.
Do you want to go to a restaurant next month? Let's say July, everything opens. Are you going to go out to eat with your family, or are you going to kind of wait?
Thai food is really good, David. I don't know if you've had it.
Well, I work in a steak place, and we love steak, but Americans love steak.
But a lot of people, a lot of people currently don't care. And I mean, like I'm sure you've seen that meme where people are like, "Oh, ordering food, it's like it's expensive, it's unnecessary. Right. I'm just being lazy. I'm not going to order food." And then you're like, during the apocalypse, it's like, "I'm a hero. I'm a patriot. I'm saving local businesses."
Right.
So if like restaurants open in a month or two, I do think that there will be a lot of people that'll be like, "Oh, I'm going back to make sure that my community is served." And then that could lead to like a huge outbreak. I don't know. I think when they're open, people will go back.
Yeah, I think so as well. But what I'm not sure it's very. We have no idea of what the worst case scenario is, and I think what we should consider is that we won't necessarily stay in this lockdown for very, very long, just because. We all need the time to start understanding what measures and policies work and what helps the spread of the virus. What lowers the rate of the spread of the virus. And once we can start to tackle that, we will be able to resume some kind of normal life. At least that's my hope and opinion. And I don't think we will stay in this situation for like 6 months. And maybe I'm just protecting myself by thinking that it will be kind of more normal sooner than that. But we will find ways. It's just we need to be very strict for a little while before we can start to see what works and what doesn't.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
like completely in that, and it kind of goes on like Khal Wadege's comment, and PBS should not have allowed the thing on the Spanish flu to not be on like their PBS passport thing, I should say, because that's something I didn't need to watch this week. But the final comment on that was like, there is no collective memory of the 1918 flu pandemic. Like, we forgot it and we moved on. And that's what I really hope COVID does. Like, we get through this and then we forget it and we go back to our regular lives. We go back to restaurants, we go back to hairdressers, we go back to beauty salons, and we forget that this happened and we move on. And I need to believe that humans are that dumb, because we will learn stuff from this medically, but as a society, if we don't learn, that is my best case scenario. Like, and that sucks in a little way, but please, once this is over, just go back to your restaurants that you love, go eat Thai food, go out and have a steak. And that will make me feel a lot better, because that was like the final thing of like the PBS, like American experience flu pandemic, was we don't have a collective memory of this. So many people died, so many people suffered through this, but we moved on.
Well, it's like, I remember, World War I, 19, right before that, right? I mean, everyone knows about that, and I'm like, I knew about, the pandemic, but like, it's not something you really hear much about. People don't talk about it. I guess it's not as, I don't know, it's not as entertaining or something. I guess I don't know what the word would be to use there. But,
but that's exactly it. Like, I
get what you're saying.
And the flu pandemic is like, it's not entertaining, but the collective trauma, it filtered through families. Like, I can look at my family and go, I can literally pinpoint World War I as a collective, like as like an intergenerational trauma point in my family where things fractured. But we forgot that. And then we had lots of divorces and lots of sex and lots of family members. And now we're outside of that. And I love the fact that I have a big family.
Right. And you look at 9/11 even, like we've seen a lot of the effects of it, mostly because of, airport security and things that they've changed. Whole departments have been created. Like we remember the things that affect our day-to-day lives where you're like, oh, I can't go to the airport. I can't go to the terminal and meet my family anymore. Like younger people don't understand any of that because they're clueless. But I think with this, the hopefully the changes we'll see. I don't know, I'm not Nostradamus or anything, but like hopefully the changes we'll see is preparedness and like measures that are being done kind of behind the scenes, stockpiles, like things that we did wrong that will be fixed, but not necessarily like now everywhere you go they're going to check your temperature forever. Like I don't think that kind of stuff is going to last. I think society will eventually go back to normal.
Thank you. Yeah, because I was like, it's one of those big things that they're saying about India, like in between like SARS and now, India has actually dealt with like 3 or 4 pandemics. Like they are ridiculously equipped for pandemics. Like they are ready for them. They know what to do. They know how to isolate. And that's why like India kind of has maybe things under control. Like let's give them tests and see things. But like they learned from their mistakes. And BBC History Hour or Witness History, which is their other one as well, has a really great thing on the SARS pandemic and how it affected Hong Kong and like how it affected India and all that kind of things. And like that is overwhelmingly positive in that we will, like the medical establishment will learn from this, but collectively as humans,
I think that people that's what we've seen is like the response does seem to be better in places that were harder hit by some of these past pandemics that we view of like, well, it didn't really hurt us in America. But I hope this isn't like when I lived in Colorado, they had they'd have snow plows, right? And then like they'd get like a giant snowstorm that only happened once every 10 years or something, and then like, oh my gosh, we didn't have enough stuff, and like they'd order more stuff, right? They'd get more plows, they'd get more salt, they'd have like, okay, we're prepared. And then 4 or 5 years later, they'd be like, man, we got all this extra stuff we don't need. And they started getting rid of stuff. And you're like, wait a second. So I hope it's not like that. But yeah.
I don't know. I actually like broke down crying a couple of times last week, and I like realized I was like low key mourning for the world as it used to be, and like I know that it just because it's actually that stupid like Imagine video that I thought people maybe overreacted.
Oh my gosh!
To. Like it was dumb, but I thought it was harmless. Like I didn't think it was as bad as people were saying. But anyway, it really hit me that like there are going to be things that are, I mean, if we're lucky, it'll be minimal, but we don't know. And like, I'm getting actually really sick of like the phrase, like uncertain times, which has been in every single email that I've, had to either write or read. And it's very difficult to deal with, especially when needs keep pressing in on you, and like you do have to go to the damn grocery store, and like it feels very I don't know, like usually it's like hopefully there'll be some kind of plan, and it doesn't feel like there is a plan for individuals or for wide scale society. I do hopefully think that we will, to some degree, learn from this. I think that a lot of people are, especially in the U.S., like very galvanized at the government response, and with things like government stipends being like now conceivable, whereas like 3 weeks ago it was unimaginable that people would agree to that some people would agree to that. I think I think it will be very socially interesting to look at the impact on the U.S. Social policy. I certainly hope we can get back to, I can go to a Broadway show when I want to, and a baseball game and all this stuff. But I do think that emotionally a lot of people are really going to suffer from this. And
right.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest.
Speaking of baseball, I mean, today was supposed to be opening day. I was gonna surprise my son and take him to a game in Cincinnati for the first time.
Oh,
in addition to my vacation being canceled, that didn't happen.
Should we talk about the stuff that got canceled that we can't?
Right. Well, I mean, I think that's something I was just gonna say is I think as dumb as it sounds, we're human. I may never work again. Who knows? I mean, I'd say that it sounds fatalistic, but I'm over 50 years old and I'm a waiter, and waiter jobs may be hard to come by really soon, and they're going to want the hot young sexy people, not me. So who knows, this could be a disaster for my life. But I'm upset that my favorite DJ was coming to Boston next month doing a greatest hits show, and I'm not going to get to see him, and that upsets me because that was something I look forward to. And it's dumb in perspective, right? I mean, but it bothers me. And there was a thing I was going to go to in New York, and I was this big music festival with my favorite DJ I've never seen was going to be there, and 2 nights, and I was staying in a hotel, and I was going to see maybe if I could get together, maybe hook up with you, Michal, or something, and it's and now that's, I mean, it's
hook up
in
in
June,
the meeting
but
sense, just to clarify.
Yes, I know. I think people know that. Since we missed the get together last time.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, yeah, theoretically it could still happen in June, but even if it did, I mean, even if they allowed it in New York City in June, which seems really, really unlikely, how wildly irresponsible would it be for me to go to that as a waiter? But that's what I'm upset about. I may not get my paycheck next week, but, I'm upset about stupid things that matter, because those things do matter to us. Your favorite TV show or movie being put off is important, I mean, it's not, but it is. It makes us happy. It makes us, it makes us calm. It gives us a sense of normalcy, and none of that exists now, which is weird and scary and bad for all of us. But we have each other, at least. I guess,
yeah, we have each other, and I feel so lucky I live in suburbia. I don't feel the emptiness that people in cities live. If I lived in London, if I was still living in London right now, I would be heartbroken.
Mm-hmm. It's weird.
I don't need to look outside my window and go, there is no one there.
Mm-hmm.
I am used to looking outside my window and going, there is no one there, because I just have my dog barking at my cat.
Right.
But God, if I lived in a city, a real city, it would be horrible.
Yep, I'm there.
I'm also,
and I get the grief and mourning that people are going through, of just that live in those places that are the world is so different right now.
I mean, yeah, living in New York, it's the difference is
right,
unbelievable.
Right. And it's been a week and a half. I mean, think about that.
And I mean, it's just you can't. First of all, it all happened very fast.
Right.
With sports and then Broadway, and it's very difficult to lose. I mean, Shakespeare in the Park was going to do my favorite play this year, and they haven't officially canceled it, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna.
Right.
Which play was
Shakespeare in Love?
They were gonna do. They were gonna do Richard II, and first of all, they never do histories. Period, because for some reason Oscar Eustace hates histories. And who's gonna do Richard II? And then all of a sudden they were doing Richard II. And
Shakespeare's best plays are his histories.
I know. Listen, if I could sit down Mr. Eustace and have a talk with him, I would be like, dude, come on, we need some Henrys. But
can we do more Voc on the Poisoned Crown? It's been it's they did the Henriade.
I mean, I think we should just act out.
There we go.
I would totally do that.
No. I've done I've done Macbeth in front of an English lit class. You do not need me doing Shakespeare.
You can read the stage direction.
Yeah, I'm a stage. I'm definitely not a Hecate kind of person, but
But yeah, I mean, it's stuff like that. It's stuff the Lord of the Rings series, stopping filming. It's it's
stupid, but
all the Mulan.
Mulan
was supposed to be out by now. Black Widow, all these, they're so dumb compared to, I keep thinking I'm in my house with my family, and I'm going a little crazy in my house with my family, and I'm like, well, Anne Frank was in an annex with people she didn't know, and like, you know, barely had her own space ever. Like it's
oh no, but Anne Frank went crazy.
Like, it's when you're balancing like the conveniences and, you know, things that are serious. Like, it is really freaking scary to go to the grocery store. Like, I had to stop going out, not even just because I'm scared of the virus, but because it was giving me like panic attacks to see empty shelves and to see people like that frantic to shop. But like you compare that, which like I think could reasonably be considered a problem with like, oh no, my superhero movie's not coming out, you know, and it's just like, but both of those things impact you, and it's I don't know, it's very. I think it's a good time to go into psychology. Let's just put it that
yeah,
way.
There's going to be a lot of people needing it.
Well, thank you. That sounds wonderful for my job prospects.
And I'm high risk, so my surgery is pretty much on pause until this is over.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, I can't get. I was supposed to have surgery in a couple months. I can't really get that either, probably. Like, I work in surgery, and we're just not. We're not doing surgery unless it's. I mean, we're still doing cancer. We're doing the stuff that needs to be done. I mean, obviously.
I guess, Adam, you'll need to get in your house to set up mirrors and a clean room and try and do it yourself.
Because the one thing I did want to bring up, and some of my friends asked me to bring up if we were talking about it, is how, you know, for some of us, this isn't the first plague we've lived through. And, you know, living through the AIDS crisis and how it was in so many ways different, like 8 million ways different, but in so many ways, you know, we're getting, you know, people are having flashbacks, people are having, you know, because we...
You know, maybe you could like write a memoir or something, since like you've got the time. I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
Everyone's got time
actually,
right
friends
now.
of mine are actually, but I mean, I have thought.
I survived AIDS and COVID.
I know, right? Oh no,
The
people are.
David.
This may actually
AIDS to COVID.
Well,
the
I
David
actually
story.
have 2 friends writing memoirs as we speak, so I suspect there'll be at the very least an epilogue. But I mean,
yeah, it might just be cathartic, you know.
At some point, I wouldn't mind doing like a VOC. Like, I know you've talked about how to survive a plague. That might be a better way to do it. So it's not about me, but it's about like.
Oh my god! I was telling you, I watched the like Patient Zero documentary, and that was brilliant and heartbreaking, and I cried twice, very quickly in it. But that was a beautiful one on like HIV and AIDS and like demonization.
Where is that? Is that on like Netflix or?
I haven't seen that one, but there's so many.
That was on SBS On Demand, and it looks into the whole Patient Zero bullshit. Because he wasn't actually Patient Zero.
Somewhere.
Right. It was kind of created as an amalgam. As that in any case, this obviously was this podcast.
It was almost accidental, and the people that did the scientific stuff were like not on top of it, and the band played on book actually made the Patient Zero thing much bigger than it actually was.
Yep.
He was never Patient Zero. He was Patient O.
Whatever.
You know, it's different. Anyway, on a positive note,
override this, I was going to say, I mean, I wouldn't mind at some point doing one, like a VOC, like say on how to survive a plague or something like that. So it's not just me, but like us all talking about it. But, you know, someone needs to make that happen, because I don't know that I can organize that myself, because it's kind of an intense discussion.
Step one is obviously get your Mad Max name. That's step one.
Yeah. On the positive note thing, I finally think I will finish the Simon Montefiore book on the Romanovs.
There you go.
Yeah, that's my positive note.
So that's a great transition of what's everybody reading? What's everybody watching right now? What are you catching up on?
I'm not catching up. That's my problem.
I know. Like, are we just stress watching the news 24/7?
Exactly. And the internet, yeah.
If you're reading stuff, The Mirror and the Light came out, which is the 3rd Thomas Cromwell book by Hilary Mantel. So it's the final book. If you watch the Wolf Hell series, that is the first 2 books in a 6-episode little thing. So it ends with Anne Boleyn's death. So the book picks up after that. And that's a delightful read. if you hit spoilers, Thomas Cromwell dies. But it's delightful. That's great. The Expanse is good. I watched The Expanse.
Yeah, I caught up on that a little while ago. I know Emily St. John Mandel just released her new book, The Glass Hotel, which looks pretty good. It's been getting good reviews, so I think I'm gonna start that. I got
I'm not reading anything by Emily St. John Mandel right now.
Oh, why not?
No, nothing against her. It's just that the book of hers that I've read is Station 11, and that
which is about everyone dies from the flu.
Yeah, let's not read that.
Oh,
like a post-apocalyptic stuff
I think we have
is just
a Vox
not
on it from like a million years ago.
We do,
so.
and it's a great book. It really is. But it's from, I think it was like 6 years ago we did a Vox on it or something. But the
post-apocalyptic is probably not the thing to do right now.
Well, look, if you go on Netflix, like the trending stuff is like Outbreak, Pandemic, all these different
that's awful.
movies.
I do not want to watch that.
Contagion is.
No,
Contagion is the thing that's trending in Netflix Canada right now. Is everyone's watching
about
Contagion,
a month
which is a
before
this goes on.
Terrible movie.
It is.
I wonder if this will pull out interest in How to Survive a Plague.
About a month before all this kind of hit, or maybe in January, like Netflix released like a documentary series, like I think it's called Pandemic, which is just like basically like what could happen, what places around the world are preparing for. It's like extremely timely. But I'm over here like I got the free 1 month trial to CBS All Access because I was like, I ain't paying for that shit. And I'm like, I'm watching Picard, and I'm like, I'm gonna watch Discovery. And
I know when we hang up, I have to watch the last episode. It's so good.
All of these places are offering really cheap streaming options or free trials, or there's all kinds of stuff going on. Mm-hmm. There are movies in the theater now that are getting pulled up. Movies that maybe will never make the theater and will go straight to like Disney Plus or something.
In the Heights got postponed indefinitely for release because I'm so mad.
Sorry, what is it like? The Fast and the Furious, they're like, we're going to release it in the year because they're like, that's a big big money movie. Right. And these other movies, it's like there's nowhere to put them because stuff's booked out for like 3 or 4 years. So it's going to be curious where they take some of these movies if some of them don't try this maybe hybrid streaming rental model or something to get what they can.
Fast and Furious pushed back number 9 into number 10 slot that they already had booked, so they just moved it back, which was very clever. So they just
didn't even know they had that.
It.
But it cost them how many hundreds of millions of dollars? But
Yeah, well, but it's like Marvel.
That's why they just moved it back because it's still at an ideal spot. Yeah. They've only released, I think, 1 trailer. It's not as bad. Whereas like Mulan, I'm just like. Yeah.
What about New Mutants? We've been waiting for that forever.
I forgot
We've been waiting for New Mutants forever. It was finally going to come out, and now.
I thought New Mutants should have skipped the theater to begin with. So.
I want to watch it. I love them.
That is a hard out thumbs down. I am sorry. Like you can give it a comic book name, but I don't believe you anymore.
They were going to do reshoots, and then like they never did them because the cast was too old. So they're like, we're just releasing what we got. It's like basically like Disney was like, well, let's see if we can make a few bucks off of it, and the Apocalypse was like, no.
Wasn't that the last X-Men movie? Apocalypse?
No, that was.
I know. I'm kidding.
Dark Phoenix, which is on HBO now.
I was joking because it wasn't Apocalypse.
I know.
We need to guys. Marie wants to say bye.
Oh, sorry.
Because it's nicer to actually say bye than to write it. Yeah, bye guys. Have fun with the rest of this cast. And it was lovely to speak to you all.
I know. So glad to talk to you.
Thanks for joining us. Stay safe.
Same to all of you.
There'll be lots more times to come. So,
lots of cuddles.
I will.
I know. We have surprisingly few Vox planned.
Well, I think right now everyone's just kind of sort of figuring out, are they going to be working? Are they not working? Like what's going on? People are just sort of, I think it's been a couple weeks of settling into that. And I think people know that like, well, I'm going to be home and have time. I think you'll start seeing more stuff organized, especially as people get into new media.
Well, we have The Witcher
I'm thinking
recording
like
on Sunday.
Christmas. Yeah.
Oh, you know what?
look-
With
I
this
look
new
forward
job
to
I'm
that.
doing, I can totally download those Witcher books and just listen to them all night.
You
I should probably
I
do
They're
that.
know.
really good.
That's
The
what I was
No,
going to say I'm doing.
I really badly want to do a Christmas in July and do The Hogfather by Terry Pratchett.
What
I've
is
heard
I'm
good.
up for
I've heard good
another
things
guys,
about the Hogfather.
Quick question. Can I get in here for 1 second? Is there a
Yeah.
commercial playing in the background, or is that on my computer?
That must be
Your
you because I'm not hearing
computer.
Okay,
it.
good. I just want to make sure. I was hoping it wasn't in our video. I don't even know which page it is. I don't see it anywhere, but I'm hearing it. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't.
It might be in the recording. Then that's why I
Oh,
always
know what?
mute
I
my
see
browser.
it. I just found it. I think
Yeah.
it's in one of my web browsers. Yeah, I just want to make sure I
Yeah,
didn't.
David. Oh,
This
you
is
just reminded me.
golden
I forgot to
content.
turn my air purifier off, so it was running the entire time
I
that
know,
I was talking earlier. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. My heater is super loud.
Turn that off.
I know
You-
my
you need
heater
to
is
get the
super loud,
infection.
so I turned my heat up to like 79 degrees before we started, and now it's down to like 62. So, but
Are
that's
we
what
all
I did.
No, I think
confessing
I think when Tanya
what we're
was
doing
leaving,
that's
it
bad?
actually it sounded like
Sorry.
she was literally taking off in a spacecraft,
Yeah.
Sorry,
and it was
say that again,
amazing.
Sarah.
Oh no, I didn't even hear Abby's stuff. I was saying, are we all confessing things we're doing that's bad? I've been knitting this
No.
whole time. I
Sarah,
am
bad.
planning on knitting a sweater during this apocalypse.
That's good.
My
Oh
apocalyptic sweater.
no!
I'm
Oh,
making
God.
chili
You
and
gotta
I'm
get off
coughing
those-
into it
You
right
gotta
now.
get off those needles, Sarah.
I mean,
No,
No,
how
no, no.
fat?
Like
Wait,
literally, the knitting community and the crafting community has like so much stuff going on. They're doing like knit alongs, crochet alongs, craft
Yeah.
alongs.
cool.
People are putting out patterns. People are having it as like pay
Yeah.
what you feel is fair for patterns at the moment, like discounts up to like 25%. Indie dyers are putting their dye on special as well because they know everyone has it tough. Like they're being really great, and there's like it's not Boggle, bingo. They're doing like knitters bingo,
There
so
you
it's just like, what have you done? Have you spilt red wine on your knitting? Yeah, so far.
I know. How many of us
I-
are eating and drinking more than ever before? I'm gonna be fat. I'm gonna be a
I
fat
I'm trying
alcoholic.
not to, but like
Yeah.
we had to like do groceries and then not
every
eat any
night.
of it.
Right. Exactly.
Oh no!
I'm not
I
good
had
when
to
food's in the
write my
house.
weight on my mirror. Like I had to write it on my mirror with a whiteboard marker and be like, "This is my pre-COVID weight. I am not going above that weight." And then tonight I made sticky date pudding.
Ah,
Yum.
I mean,
but
let's
Donna,
be honest though.
I
you're
went
not
to
going
the
to be
liquor
going
store.
outside. I think everyone's
I
going
went to the
be
liquor
gaining
store
weight
because I wasn't sure if they were gonna close, and I bought like the Game of Thrones whiskeys and
There
like
you go. Yeah, I saw your
everything.
pictures. Yeah.
Oh,
I
Adam,
genuinely
I am
think the
literally
fitness
in the
industry-
point where, yeah, I am literally at the point where it's like, yes, I've drunk through my week's worth of booze for the third time this week.
Right.
Oh, same.
I mean,
same.
I don't
drink
generally
like 2
drink.
bottles of wine a week.
Oh, I've gone through like a handle of vodka last week and a half.
My gin, I thought I had gin, and then because I went and bought tonic water when I went grocery shopping,
Oh, no.
and I opened my freezer, and my gin was basically all gone. I was so sad. I was so looking forward to having my gin, and now I don't have it because it was gone.
Oh no, I went to buy tonic today, and I'm like, all the tonic is sold out. I'm not drinking fucking diet tonic. What am I, a fucking vegan?
Well, haven't you heard that tonic kills coronavirus?
There you go.
Yeah,
No, vodka kills it. Vodka and scotch kill it.
Vodka
Confession,
should.
Wouldn't that be
I
great?
don't actually use tonic. I just use sparkling water. Confession.
Yeah.
Depending on the gin, using a sparkling water is much better.
Oh, it's all better because
Yeah.
I mean, tonic is just quinine and sugar added. So
Yeah, I like my quinine. I live in a mosquito-heavy area.
So is
Even
anyone?
though
I mean,
COVID could
how
not
many
be
of you
transmitted
are,
during blood.
how many of you are like quarantined with other people?
I mean, I have
am.
one of my roommates
No.
went home. She went back to BC, and then I have my one roommate, my other roommate, and my roommate's girlfriend. Day 13.
So we've been doing like board games and stuff, card games and board games. My son's been having a great time with that.
Yeah, we played the Game of Life yesterday.
Oh,
we
I
got
love that
really
game.
drunk. We got
Nice.
so drunk playing it and listened to country music.
Someone was saying you could do chess or checkers, over Skype. But there are some games you could
know.
actually do,
we were talking in the
you know,
games chat.
remotely.
We were talking in the games chat. I think all of those. Who was it that makes those games? Like the people who made the you don't know Jack. What's their names? I forget now. But all their games.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Jack in a Box?
Yeah, Jack in the Box. They're like party packs. You can actually play those online, even if only one of you owns it. You can like invite others, and they can like somehow share your screen. So I'm totally excited to try to do that.
Yeah, we should try to do
those
like a
year
regular
ago.
game night or something, maybe.
Right.
You know,
I got those
that would
like
be
a
lot of
year
fun.
ago in a humble bundle sale, and I've never used them. Actually, 2 years ago, and I've never played any of them. Maybe now's a good chance.
Yeah,
Hey.
I've still got all of these video games that are like in my pile of shame that I'd like to play through that I never have time for.
Oh yeah. Oh my
in
God.
addition to books and movies, but the video games, I'm like, oh yeah, man, I got time. I'm home, and I'm like, oh my kid can't watch me play that. I'm gonna like cut that dude's head off.
Right.
So it's no different.
I have like the South Park the newest South Park video game from like 2 years ago that I
Oh,
bought
yeah.
like 2 years ago.
I haven't played that yet. I
and
played
never
the first.
played it.
I played the first,
Yeah,
but not
I never
the second.
played it.
My wife and I keep
started
wanting to play it.
The first or
started
the
it
second?
A couple days ago. The second one, the fractured butthole.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen. I saw the
But
first. Yeah.
Yeah, I started it a couple days ago, but I was like really stoned, and so it was not. It took me like an hour to create my character.
Actually,
So-
that would probably be the
and then
best way to play it. That would probably be the best way to play it.
And then like the new Animal Crossing came out last week, so I've been playing that a lot. But like
That was in Sarah's bingo. Have you downloaded the new Animal Crossing?
Oh, there you
yeah, I have. I downloaded it at 1 o'clock in the morning the day it came out because I couldn't fall asleep.
You have a thing, a cross on the bingo
I guess
board now.
I'll go see what Sarah's bingo is and see if I can fill any of the spaces out.
All right, here's a good thing. Has anybody made like apocalypse impulse buys, like purchases
Yes.
where you're like, you know what? I'm home. I need a new Xbox or something. Like, what have you bought?
I bought a face pore cleaner off of Facebook that probably won't get here for like 3 months, but it was only $30, and I had gotten a refund on something, so I was like, well, I have $30 to spend.
There was some stuff that I was like, I better order these things like to have, you know, toys or whatever, like, you know, for myself, for my son, and like I try to order this stuff before everything shuts down, and then like a lot of it I'm like, it still hasn't shipped yet. But I got some stuff that like, you know, some packages that like I was told like, oh, we're just refunding your money because we don't know when stuff's going to get out, and I'm like, it says it's like a day away from getting here, like you refunded my money, but I'm pretty sure I'm about to get it. So
I got some Doctor Who action figures. Well, they were actually figurines that I really should not be spending the money on, but I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it, I deserve this now, you know?
Yeah.
It'll cheer me up a little. It's like a companion who was like not on the show, but was on these audios by Big Finish.
Oh, that is the nerdiest thing ever.
Exactly.
Guys, I got social distancing bingo.
And they weren't even a physical thing. Oh, I
right, they
love
were an audio book character. An audio book
I got
character.
Holy shit.
That is the perfect
gosh,
level
guys,
of
I'm getting
nerdiness.
so many
Right?
bingos.
I feel like that I should cancel like pre-orders for certain things, but I'm like, well, they're not going to ship on time anyway.
No. I actually got another set of those figurines that I forgot I'd pre-ordered that showed up like 2 days ago and was like, oh, surprise! I guess I'm paying for this now because here it is.
Oh.
But I mostly like my son. This is so great. My son's gotten into like Star Wars finally the last couple months, and he's like super into it now.
I'm so glad.
And so
The thing that
I've got like all of my
it has like Star Wars things in it.
I've got like my toys and things that I've had in the garage, like collectibles and stuff that like I've been getting for years. I keep telling my wife it's for him when he's ready. You know, it's for me.
Totally.
But
yeah.
so now I'm pulling stuff out, and he's like super into it. It's great.
Oh, that's so good. In the thing that I sent him, there is like some Clone Wars temporary tattoos, and there's a BB-8 straw.
I actually have a bunch.
He loves BB-8, and he's only recently sort of figured out that every droid is not BB-8. He'll still call like R2-D2 BB-8 sometimes.
You know,
Adam, how old is your son?
He's 8.
Oh, 8? Oh.
Yeah.
You know,
he just wasn't like super into Star Wars so recently.
I'm one of those people who like when stuff's on sale, I buy stuff thinking ahead. And like I forgot to do Secret Sansa this year, and I actually had stuff I bought all year for like Secret Sansa. So I'll have to get you, Adam, next year because I have some Star Wars stuff you'd like.
I get like I buy stuff when it's like if it's at Ross or like super clearance, I'm like, this is normally $50 and it's $8. I just should buy it, and you know it's a bad thing to do.
I do that at
but
thrift.
usually
I do
it's
that
stuff
at
that I
thrift
do
stores.
want.
Right.
But like
I
like
so
weird
bad.
shoes.
My wife got mad at me because like I have stuff sometimes it's like so long that we forget I have it. And so I have like there's an X-wing from The Force Awakens that like they made an X-wing toy. It's like it was like $50 or something. It's not like great, but it's it's for like the little 4-inch figures.
Right. And you got it for like $3.99.
Well, I like literally I got it for $3 at Walmart because they were going on clearance, and I'm like, I'm not buying these things. They're not that good. And like I went and found a Walmart that had them, and they had like 10 of them, and they were like $3. Nice. So I bought all of them.
Right.
And like I've had them for years now. I've sent them to nieces and nephews as like gifts and stuff, and because they're like it's a sizable, it's a cool toy. Mm-hmm. And then like I pulled one out the other day for him since he's into it, and she's like, "Where did you buy this? What did you?" And I'm like, "I bought that for $3 4 years
10 years ago."
I bought 20 of those for $3 each.
I know, right? That's right. Did you guys see the Secret Sansa set?
Funny.
Did you guys see the Secret Sansa set that I sent Amber? Not this past year, the year before. Like, she got like a box of all this loot that I got like on clearance or I got a good deal on. But I mean, it was like a massive box of loot. It was like amazing. I mean, I admit I did spend more than I was supposed to, but regardless, she got like the loot box no one's ever seen. It was amazing. Because I was like, oh, but I'll throw this in. Oh, I'll throw this in. Oh, wait, I just got this.
Yeah, and some of this stuff too. It's like if you go into like a discount store and they have something and they're like previous price $15, but for you it's 10, and you're like,
ooh.
Oh, I know that sells for 50. You're like, someone fucked up.
Right.
You're like, I'm gonna buy it.
Oh, there's whole websites devoted to like mistakes like that, and then everyone, and then they get like 10,000 orders in one night, and they're like, oh shit. And some stores will honor it and some won't. Amazon honors that stuff, but other stores don't.
Oh yeah. Like Amazon's honoring of that has actually fucked up like people's pre-orders. Like when they have like hardcovers and like Amazon's like, yeah, we have 1,000, but we actually sold 5,000, so you need to provide them. And they're like, oh, we're gonna get hand cramps from signing. Cool now. But yeah, all of the stuff I bought is like embroidery based. Like I know I'm sitting at home and I am just going to be sitting here with my large amounts of Whisper Weft making a fucking Archer pun of
Well, and the thing that sucks about this time right now, too, is like people are worried if Postal Service will shut down or anything.
Right.
So like if you're home and you're like, well, you know what? I have some collectibles or knickknacks or old video games or something that you're like, I could make a couple $100 at least to help pay some bills, selling stuff. You're like, who's buying stuff online? Because I'm like,
well, never mind that. Who's buying stuff at all?
I can trust that it'll get here.
Never mind that. Who's going to buy stuff? Do you want something that's been in someone else's house? I'd be
well, by the time it gets to you, it's fine. It's the box that you got to wipe down.
Or even like on Craigslist or something.
And if it's clothing, you can wash it straight away.
No Craigslist, no sir.
Right, like that's how I don't like mailing stuff out, but like I would sell, like I have computer parts I want to sell, and I'm thinking, who the fuck's gonna buy that?
Oh, so how do you Craigslist?
How do you disinfect a motherboard? I mean,
Speaking of Craigslist and related to this, a lot of the N95 masks, the respirators.
Oh god.
There was like pallets of them that were stolen in Washington, and like a week later, they found through a Craigslist ad, they found some guy that was like, hey man, I got these respirators, and I'm like, people gotta come out in person and get them from you, Sling Blade, and so like that guy's in jail.
Good. Or like the people who bought the like 16.
It looks like heroin, Lupidude.
What?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like, look, I was in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Or like the guy with the 16,000 hand sanitizers.
But it's like I was in a GameStop like a couple weeks ago, and like there were like some meth heads in there trying to sell stuff, and it was like they were giving them nothing because of course GameStop doesn't give you anything, and they were like, but it's these are brand new, like they clearly just stole them from somewhere, and we're like trying to like trade them in. They're like, well, we can't take stuff that still is in the wrapper for that reason, so they open it up, and then it's like, well, we'll give you $5. She's like, but it's like $50 brand new, and like
not brand new
they were
anymore.
like, well, what about an old? He's like, what about an iPod Touch? That's got to be worth something. They had like an iPod Touch. Like he's like, I'll give you. He's like, I can give you 50 cents because it's scratched. Like they were like, fine, I'll take it. I'm sitting there like, oh my god.
That's funny.
Well, did you see the GameStops in like I think in California? There's like a GameStop in California that refuses to close. It's like they claim they're an essential service.
Well, the whole company was doing that, and now they've all closed the actual lobby. You can like do curbside pickup at your GameStop.
Oh my god!
I need to browse.
Funny. That's just funny.
But yeah, they were telling their employees, we are an essential service. Make sure you're cleaning. And they're like, well, how am I supposed to clean? I don't have Lysol wipes. So like, find some. That's what they're telling me, like the store managers.
Well, that was a problem. I mean, I went shopping. I went shopping, and in the city, it's impossible to find anything. So one of my friends lives out in the burbs, and he came and picked me up, and we went out shopping there. And it was so funny. We went to 2 different stores. The Market Basket had everything, had wipes, had everything. We went into like both a Dollar Tree and like some like other store, supermarket, and they had like not a wipe in the place. They're like, sorry, we're out. I'm like, great.
I know. I need more soap for my bathroom. Like, I'm not super low, but like I'm gonna run out. And I went to the grocery store, and they have nothing, so I'm like, can I just use dish soap as normal soap, because they had a lot of dish soap.
I mean, really, yeah. I mean, the quality of the soap doesn't really matter.
Honestly,
but it should be
you
foaming.
really
it should
can.
be foaming.
The mechanical scrubbing. Look, as someone who basically gets paid to wash his hands for a living,
right.
Like a lot of it is really just the mechanical action combined with the water is what does a lot of it, and the soap helps, release it.
It's the grease of the soap that sort of wears away the liquid coat of the viruses.
Right.
So it's just the energy that you need to put into it. It doesn't really matter what kind of soap it is.
Yeah,
like antibacterial soaps don't even necessarily help much. So
essentially, soap, the molecule looks like a sperm. So you have a hydrocaphy
head
part, and the tail is hydrophobic, right?
It's got the flagellum.
Yeah, so essentially any soap is good soap.
Well,
and if it smells nice, great.
You want an alcohol. If it's just antibacterial, it won't kill a virus.
Yeah. All you want is the foaming is SLSs. So at the end of the day, if you need to wash your body in Palmolive, that is fine.
But I've got to say, on the subject of the soap and the hand sanitizer and all this, I got immense pleasure seeing people with their postings at Costco being like, we're not taking returns on any of this stuff that you bought pallets of last week.
Yes.
And the guy that drove around Middle Tennessee,
right,
buying
that's
up all of the hand sanitizer,
16,000, I think it was.
And the only reason he was a news story is because he basically went to the news and was like, Amazon shut me down.
It's not
I'm
fair,
a victim,
asshole.
And my brother, he keeps trying to convince me that price gouging is good. He's like, because instead of people hoarding it at their houses, it's available from a purveyor at a price. And I'm like, right, stores could just limit how much you can buy, and that does the same thing, and everyone can pay the normal price. If it's 10 times the price, it's available. I'm like, right, it's only available to the people that can get it. To a certain point, supply and demand, prices need to rise to deal with demand. That's a basic economic principle. But
when you're faking
price gouging like this, especially when the dude went in and bought it before people were looking for it because he's aha. Right. And then you're creating an artificial demand in your area, even if you're servicing people somewhere else that can't get it, you've robbed from your entire community. Right. So that got confiscated.
Right. Well, they didn't confiscate it. They
basically donate it.
They forced him to donate
police,
it. They were going to press charges. They were going to press charges.
The police came and took it. He said he was donating it, but the police came and took it. Is what happened.
Oh wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Someone.
Good.
I think
that's
someone
totally fair.
Someone in Alberta, I think, got arrested for coughing on someone because it was for terroristic actions.
Ew. That's messy.
Well, I hear that's the way to get a COVID test quickly is to cough on a rich person,
right.
And then you'll find out if you have it.
Right. Well, I mean that's. We joke, but that was actually something.
A celebrity.
No, we joke, but that was a thing around the AIDS era where they would arrest people for for coughing or
for coughing
or whatever. Yeah, no, they'd be like, you're spreading it. It got really messy.
Right, because they didn't know. I saw a story of a nurse
they did know.
A couple weeks ago that there was a patient that came into the ER somewhere, and they were they had a fever and they put a mask on them, and they were they wanted a blanket because they were cold, and we can't give you a blanket because you're got 102 fever.
Right.
And they were trying to get them to come. They're I'm getting out of here, and they're trying to take their mask off. It's dude, you can't take your mask off. Look, if you want to leave, that's on you. But so they ripped the mask off and was fuck you and spit in their face.
Oh.
And I'm just
that's awful.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm like, do people not like you came into the ER because like you need assistance, and you're just like, I can't get a blanket, so screw it. And also, I'm gonna like potentially try to infect other people. Like,
Adam, I have a question, and if you don't want to answer the thing, but what exactly do you do? Like, what is your position in the hospital?
so well, normally I work in surgery. I'm a surgical tech, a surgical assistant.
Okay.
Like I
That's okay. That's
yeah, I
okay.
help doctors, set up the rooms and instruments, and help them retract and do things surgical. There's a whole bunch of stuff to my job, but none of that's going on right now.
Yeah.
So starting tonight, I'm going to be working overnights, basically as like the PPE nanny, sort of like all of our gowns, everything's under lock and key now.
Yeah.
So just kind of making sure everything's accounted for and people have what they need and all. Yeah. And
Can I just say thank you, Adam, and to all the healthcare workers of our country and our world, who are helping all of us and putting yourself at risk, unfortunately, and we need to do better for you.
And just to say, I mean, there's problems with the way healthcare is run, and healthcare is a profit kind of, for-profit system causes issues. Yeah. But everyone's doing their best right now to kind of be prepared and hope their area doesn't have like a large outbreak to contain. And if they do, hopefully we have enough beds and all that. Every hospital is, for the last several weeks has been working on their, emergency plans and all that. And I don't know about everywhere, but I can say my hospitals, in the city, people I've talked to, places they work, seem to be, fairly on top of it. I mean, they're doing as best as they can, and whatever shortages or anything may come, we're not short on anything yet. It's just and supposedly they're getting new stuff out to us, so we'll see.
The hospital my aunt works in, because I think she's something in the ER or whatever, but they have had mask shortages, and she's been keeping us updated because she lives where my parents and grandparents lived, and they have been having lots of shortages.
I've heard of a lot of people being told to ration certain things and being careful. Like I said, I've heard of people at facilities being like, if they catch you taking masks home, you're fired.
Crazy. But
yeah. So, but there's also the flip side of that is we've got construction workers and stuff bringing in their masks and stuff to add to the supply. Yeah. You hear about that from all over. So
Grey's Anatomy donated all of their extra props or whatever.
Right? Because they use real. They actually use real supplies in that show.
Yeah. So did
the construction workers thing just is. Yeah, just bless them. Ugh.
Yeah, but so that's one thing people talk about. So the N95 masks used for painting and construction are basically the same as what we use in the hospital, but they're not marked as medical. Right. So they're not approved for medical use, and it took them a day to be we're lifting temporarily, they're approved. Let's just move on.
Oh,
because they're exactly the same, really. So
shit tons of dust masks, and he's if it gets bad and we have to use these, this is a thing.
Right.
Thanks.
Well, did you hear about did you hear about the ventilators
from a mine site?
Yeah, they're trying to get the car manufacturers to make ventilators or something.
But there's also apparently there's another thing that's like a ventilator that apparently you just have to change one thing and then it can work as a ventilator. I forget what it was, but it was something I was reading about just yesterday.
Well, we have our anesthesia machines and things that people use that can be kind of converted.
Maybe that was it.
But it's not there's millions of those either.
Right.
I mean, we have if you have an OR that's got 5 rooms, you probably have 5 or 6 machines. And those are usually something that's monitored by an anesthesiologist or a CRNA constantly, and ventilators are kind of not the same.
I don't know what it was. There was something else I was reading about how they could convert them over, and they were going to really start trying to make that happen. So let's hope.
Yeah.
Everyone's producing. Make pretty much all the paint masks and medical masks, and it's pretty much the exact same process. So they only need to change a little bit before they can get them all to the same standard as medical mask in their productions.
Yeah.
So I can speak a little bit. So other companies basically doing things for COVID-19 specifically are moving to do things more towards it. I think there's a lot of, I believe it's some car companies are working on making ventilators in the U.S.
Yep.
Specifically, I do know also that pharmaceutical companies, I know this because my dad works in manufacturing. Basically, the government FDA has asked if they were to find a cure, or not cure, but like treatment for it, like the malaria thing that everybody's been talking about. They want to make sure that if that is like an actual viable treatment, that they can make it immediately. So a lot of people are doing tests to make sure that they could manufacture something like that in a decent amount of time. If they
Getting the supplies they would need or whatever.
Right.
So like, my dad's plant makes lots of other different medications, and usually it's more towards fortunately it's towards opioids, but it basically they're taking out any kind of like allergic reaction chemical that people could have too. So they're just making more like
everyone's doing what they can and preparing for what they might need to do. And I think that's the thing, is regardless of whether there is a like central unified plan from leadership, like a lot of the hospitals, businesses, other organizations are saying, well, what can I do, or what might help, and they're doing it now. Right. So that's something, unfortunately, because we don't get to see each other, and we don't have the news isn't going out, and we don't get video of this. It's all kind of odd. A lot of that's probably going unnoticed at the moment. But did anyone have anything they want to add to this, Ty?
Yeah,
Hi,
real
Ty.
quick. I just wanted to give hi guys. I just wanted to give a shout out to my mental health team that was able to organize conference calls and to still continue their group therapy and stuff over the phone, which was cool to see that's still going on. So so that was cool. I'm happy about that. But
yeah, it's so important. And also just to say, if you were ever like, I don't need therapy, blah blah blah, and you're feeling whatever, and you're for some reason not super into therapy, check out Talkspace or BetterHelp or or BetterHelp, whatever it's called. Get the shit you need. I think the important thing nowadays is not to suffer more than we have to.
Right.
And do what you got to do to do that and to be healthy. And yeah.
In Australia, contact Menshed or Good Samaritans. Not Good Sammies, because that is a charity shop, but Good Samaritans. They have people online, and they have fantastic forums that are mediated by mental health professionals. But if you are in crisis, just call Lifeline.
Right. And don't be afraid to talk to people who maybe aren't professionals about it too, because we can all help each other through this. Don't feel like you have to be the quote unquote strong one, because that doesn't help anyone, and it certainly doesn't help you. Get help if you need it. Talk to people. This is stressful. It's scary. It's awful, and and we haven't even seen the worst of it. I mean, I hope we never do. But I mean, people are gonna have people near them die. People are gonna have awful things happen, and even if it sounds like your thing is stupid, oh, I missed a DJ, whatever. It's important to you, and you should be able to talk to people about that and not feel ashamed or whatever. We're all human. We're all fragile in some ways and strong in others, and we have to try to be here for each other.
Yes! Yeah. Exclamation point.
Check on your friends. They're not doing okay.
Yeah, big time.
I think go through life with the assumption now that you are sick and that nobody is doing okay.
Right.
Basically.
Right.
Yeah.
And this just started.
You're listening to this on the internet, so you obviously have an internet connection, so use it to talk to your friends.
Right.
Yeah, and maybe we'll do a live YouTube thing with video for the fans, guys. Right, guys? Right?
That sounds like way too much effort, and it involves getting out of pajamas.
Right.
Guys, I was working out 3 times a week before this happened, and now I'm
I just
not at all.
for the first time in a week, and I'm like,
they closed the gym.
God.
Have you realized that they're closing all of the beautician places and the gyms, so we're going to be back to the dark ages of beauty? No one will have their hair dyed because hairdressers are shut in most places.
I've got
Tanja dye in the house.
It's crazy, but I did buy hair dye. I was like, I'm planning on, assuming it gets here ever, and like everybody in my family is still healthy, I'm like dyeing my hair rose gold.
I say anyone need black women's hair dye? Amazon sent it to me by mistake. A 3-pack, of women's black hair dye. I'm neither a woman nor do I have black hair.
Oh, that's funny.
But you could.
Hashtag
I guess.
Bring back the bush, because that's what we all have to deal with now.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh boy.
I think David, you need to like start experimenting with some black streaks in your hair.
Yeah, save the planet. Only shower once a week.
There you go. No
one's
washing.
Yeah, but save my nose and shower every day, please.
I know.
Presented in glorious smell-o-vision.
Luckily, we can't smell each other over Skype. We can't smell each other over Skype.
I thought Joe was super asleep, but I found him awake reading Dance for Dragons.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, sorry. Part 2 of The Feast for Crows. My bad.
Nice. Hey, we can finally read those books that we haven't been reading.
Right? I know. I can actually. I'm gonna try to get read The Witcher and join if I can get it done in time for the podcast.
I think I'm gonna maybe start on the Witcher books. I think I'll
download. If you can finish by Sunday, we're podcasting about it. So.
I won't. But you know,
they're really
shorter
good.
books.
It'll
they're
still
short.
be
We're just doing the first book, so the Last Wish is on Sunday.
Right. I still have like 85.
I could probably do that. Yeah.
All right, I have to do stuff, I guess. So.
Yeah.
What do any of you have to do? Let's be honest.
So.
I have to write.
David,
I have to do the same shit I was doing before.
I'm kidding.
But hopefully this has been good. It's been good chatting with you guys. I don't know. I'll try to get this out within the next couple of days or whatever. Edit out a few bits, but won't need too much editing. Will you guys post your files? Whoever has files, because I'm still not certain about that. Unfortunately.
Adam.
What?
Adam. Thank you for doing this.
Yes.
I feel so much better.
Yeah, and hey, if you guys, hopefully we'll, circle back to this at another point, and if you guys want to chat and play a game, or, if we want to do like a apocalypse book club, I'm happy to do it.
Let's do a happy
Can we go through?
Now's the perfect time to do zombie-themed things.
Yeah, let's do happy.
I would love a World War Z book club because I literally have studs to kill the Good War, which was based on I have nerd shit for it.
We send a message out. Speaking of not the way it happens in the books, can we send a message out to Tormund of Game of Thrones? Because apparently Christopher, however you pronounce his last name, has gotten it, and now the whole cast of Witcher, they were scrubbing down the sets.
The saddest part.
The Wyndham Wizard or whatever he is.
I don't know. I haven't watched it yet.
No, he's playing a guy called Novellin.
No, but I mean, he's in those commercials for the Wyndham hotels. He's their mascot.
Yeah. I wonder if they're taking those signs down quickly.
Yeah, I don't care what he was in The Witcher. I was fapping about season 1, but season 2 with Tormund and Henry Cavill. I'm sorry, that's just porn. At a certain point, it just becomes porn.
Thanks for bringing it back to a real Vok podcast.
Hey, Screen Junkies justified me. They referred to her as the hot hunchback, and I'm I feel fine now.
Oh, that was great. All right, I'm gonna
curious
go
about how they did it, because that must have dislocated her jaw so much.
I love you all. I'm so glad you're healthy, and if you're not healthy, I'm so glad you're still around.
Yeah, I'm still around for now.
Yay! Please stick around forever, but I'm gonna rack off. So goodbye.
Yeah, it's time to head out.
I think we've
venture into the wasteland.
Yeah, I think we've milked this to death now. We could talk for hours and hours and hours, but
this will cut down to 30 minutes. It's fine.
There you go.
Later,
all right,
bye guys. Love you all.
On topic, off topic. Okay.
Cool.
All right, later, guys.
Okay, bye, Adam.
Thank you again. Bye.